It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Amherst. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Gene's a big timer, a social misfit. Clueless to the title of the biggest buskeg hits. Chuck Munchie's goons have the last say. So thanks for your time, Mr. Mayo. Danger likes his cold ones and he likes his bears. But this is Rochester, Q Francesa.
Oh, who cares?
He's critical of Sean, he's critical of Alan. Of course he married Sandy, cause she's Italian. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
Let me just start off by saying what has bothered me the most in the last 24 hours. Welcome to the Sports Bar. It's Gene Battaglia with you. We will get to our special guest co-host today as Mike Danger is in Chicago. And it has been, he'll be back tomorrow. Went to the Bears game yesterday, saw them win. It's been a memorable day, has it not, Bills fans? And maybe you're a Met fan, maybe you're upset. Here's the one thing that bothered me the most in the last 24 hours. The executive producer decided to turn on the heat today. Like, that is not acceptable. It's only, 59? What are we doing? Yeah. But I'm not going to win that argument. Welcome to the Sports Bar. Gene Battaglia with you. Tim Schneider in today, who you are going to either be bouncing around in excitement.
Yeah, we'll see.
Or just a pool of I don't know what.
It's going to be a fun series. It already is a fun series, but Scooble today is tough one for the Guardians.
Yeah, if you're watching online, you will see Tim in his Guardians gear. I don't know what gear that exactly is.
The 2022, I believe, the All-Star jersey for Jose Ramirez.
Okay, that is
Colorado,
that is.
That was.
Yeah, that's a deep pull there. Mike Underwood from On-Track Auto Sales also went today. We planned this out like weeks ago, and I had no idea.
Oh my God.
The world will be where it is. We get a few of these quote unquote blame assessment Mondays
100%.
where gosh, and anybody that wants to join us 585-866-4FAN 866-4326 set you up on the show today as coming up in the 4 o'clock hour we will talk to Ryan Talbot from NewYorkUpstate.com as sure, we can talk about the coaching. We can talk about Josh Allen's play. We can talk about the safeties. What was that? I think top right at the list, though, how could you possibly retool this wide receiver room for Buffalo? Ryan Talbot in the 4 o'clock hour. So we got a lot of time for your calls today at 866-4FAN, 866-4326 until we get to those calls. Mike, here's what bothered me, and I'm just going to state the obvious here.
Right.
What would have been the outcome? Okay, let's just say, what were they thinking? That, all right, you just hit with 40 seconds on 2nd and 10, Mac Hollins up to the 40-yard line, and you have no timeouts. He gets tackled and bounced, tick, 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 tick. You're going to get it up there, and then you're going to spike it. Or maybe you run a quick play, and, we're going to find Dalton Kincaid, and he's going to catch it again, tick, 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 spike it again, and you get up to the plus 40. What makes anyone think, much less the Bills coaches, that Tyler Bass was your guy from 57 yards out? Why weren't they playing for overtime? And
from your own 5, you have to.
Yeah, I look, I love the engagement on next, and I've been, certainly talking to people back and forth all week here. And one of our regulars, Peter in the Sports Bar, writing in, riddle me this. Sean McDermott is receiving fair criticism for the 3 passes from Allen, yet Bills Mafia wants him to take more chances with Allen. If they run, he gets criticism for being conservative. I don't think, Peter, you're selling the Bills fan base short. I mean, you are backed up, and Elena Getzenberg pointing this out, according to Elias. That's the first time in NFL history since they started keeping track of this stuff in a tie game when you're backed up that far that you called 3 straight passes with under 40 seconds to go. It's just not possible.
And it just shows ineptitude. I mean, we had a similar situation, what was it, last year with the Vikings game? We're backed up That I think we actually were ahead. Josh Allen bobbles the exchange from his own 1 or 2 yard line.
Yeah, right. 2 years
They
ago.
recovered 2 years ago, that's when it was.
Yeah, look, that's just what are you going to do about that? This was actually we thought this was a good idea.
Well, yeah. I mean, you got to choose some clock. You can't run 3 plays and just.
I think what we've learned over the course of McDermott's career in Buffalo is he's just not good at math. Like you don't have to go back very far. There's times that in history that stick out like a sore thumb. That 13 seconds is what I'm referring to. He's just not a good math guy. You know how much time you have on the clock. You know that overtime is the worst case scenario until he found a new worst case scenario.
No, that should have been the scenario. And up until that point, here's why I would love to go in overtime. What did Houston do offensively in the second half?
Yeah, absolutely
nothing. When Nico Collins went out, that was it. They didn't have anybody. You could say Buffalo didn't have anybody, but the Bills were moving the ball.
Well, they looked like us last year, right?
Yeah.
Just key on Steph Diggs, and that's where TB got him. Just keying on Steph Diggs, and if it wasn't going to Steph Diggs, it wasn't happening. And it was like watching the Bills of 2024.
Exactly. So when you're watching this, and others have pointed this out on the replay. So it's 2nd and 10, and that's the play to Hollins. And why anybody thought Matt Collins would be this deep threat, I don't know. What did you bring in MVS for? I don't know. Well, they pan over to McDermott, and if you're reading lips, McDermott talking on his headset, presumably you would think to Brady, we should be going for the first down. Wow. Well, if that's the case, we should be going for the first down. You're saying this to your offensive coordinator. Maybe that's the chain of command. If it was that important, Tim, why aren't you telling your quarterback going in? Was there a discussion between McDermott and Allen coming in? If McDermott is the head coach, this was the one time he's got to kind of take the reins and say, this is what I want to do here.
If we've got communication issues still between McDermott and Allen this deep into their tenure together, then there's deeper issues than just losing a football game. They had to have communicated at some point. The lack of execution, one thing. Lack of communication, you can't have anymore. It can't exist. You have to be communicative with your superstar player who needs to do what he has to do to get them in the position that you want them to be in.
The funny thing, Mike, was that you sometimes in real time, like you're tweeting things out, and I tweeted out this, which was a fact,
right,
that Houston's clock management was terrible too.
It was like who's going to lose the game.
Oh my gosh!
Bullet.
And I tweeted that out, and then somebody who didn't actually see what Houston did, Derek Anacino, former Aquinas coach, who was also an '89 grad at AQ, I said, Gene, what are you talking about? Don't you mean Buffalo? I'm like, no. And if you remember that sequence, that was just as bad, maybe even worse, because they're ready to line up for a game-winning kick, and nobody would have been upset, right? And you had that smart play, the running back going down in bounds, and then you have Dalton Schultz going out of bounds. Okay, that's really bad. And instead of just running it forward and calling a timeout, they call a pass play and you get the intentional grounding? Wow, this is just a gift. And I'm thinking, we're going to kill the Houston coaching staff. But Sean McDermott was like,
enter Sean McDermott.
Nope, enter Sean McDermott.
That Undertaker gif.
Wow. Gosh, 13 seconds. Time for your calls, 866-4 FAN 866-4326. Before I forget, thank you to everybody who came out to Three Heads on Friday. Fantastic time. Great seeing Linda and Greg and Ben and Brittany and just a lot of the regulars, Steve and Victor, who I actually kind of big time on the way out. I admit it. No, he was like, hey, you got 30 seconds. And
you did.
It was one of those because we do the Danger and I do the high Friday night rivals, and well, we said, yeah, we'll do the Three Heads on Friday, but we got to be in Canandaigua, and it's youth football night, and there's no parking down there, and it's like, yeah, we just made up our own parking spot. So, Steve, thank you for coming out. Thanks to everybody for coming.
Those do sound really good. I haven't made it out because of job requirements, but I've listened, and all of that sounds really good.
Excuses.
Fine, I will skip work to come out next.
Like, you've never been one to pass up a cold one.
That is also a fatal flaw eventually. But yeah. If I've got to work, I've got to work. But next time I will skip work. And
next time, everybody wants to know the date, and we'll let that as soon as we know. We will let you know. Our friend Tim in San Diego, welcome, Tim at 866-4FAN. Hey, Tim. We don't have Tim. Hold on, Tim.
Where do you want me to start? It's crazy. I mean, the O-line was atrocious yesterday. Josh running for his life, hence his injury that we won't talk about apparently. But Osiris Torrance is going through a sophomore slump. He's not having a good year. And Spencer Brown, still inconsistent. But you look at the safeties, obviously the DeMar Hamlin, Cole Bishop tandem, it didn't work. It's not going to work anytime soon, it looks like. As much as, DeMar Hamlin's a great person, God bless him for what he's gone through and made it to this point, he's not a starter in this league, unfortunately. And everybody's seeing that, and they're exposing it. And the third down defense yesterday, not the greatest in the first half. It got better in the second half, but it definitely, could not hold them on third downs, for most of the game. And you talk about the communication, between Allen and McDermott. Well, what about the communication on challenges? I mean, Dalton Kincaid made the catch, a great catch, but they said, no, let's punt it away. And that's, again, the communication that you're talking about is definitely an issue. And if they're looking for a wide receiver, there's somebody down in Cleveland, just down south on I-90. His name is Amari Cooper. He might be, available, I would think, because Browns are awful.
Yeah, Tim, way to get us started. Appreciate you. And let's have a Mets-Padres NLCS, shall we?
Go Padres.
866-4FAN. Let me okay, lot to unpack there. Tim, Amari Cooper, or the Browns trading him?
No, the Browns are yet again a dumpster fire. They find a new way to do it every year. What they should do is trade everybody except for Myles Garrett and Nick Chubb because we like him. But it starts and ends with Deshaun Watson, and I've said enough bad things about him that it probably has me on a watch list somewhere. So
yeah, look, the Browns should sell, but I don't trust their owner. I don't trust their
NFL too. You've got if you sell, you're not getting anything back for him. So unless they're getting a second or third round pick for him, which is incredibly unlikely, then what do? You keep using him and do the best you can because we've spent an entire generation of losing.
I think one thing too is when you have that third wild card. Not that the Browns are thinking they're a third wild card, but they were a playoff team last year. You have to look at teams that are maybe down and out. Raiders certainly, and that Devontae Adams talk isn't going to go away anytime soon. Jacksonville should be a team, but they avoided 0-5, Mike. But I'm just looking for other options here in this league because when you look at the wide receiver room in Buffalo, this is the worst it's been for Josh Allen. There's no question. Sure. Like, you would take Robert Foster circa 2018 at this point.
I mean, just about, and why anyone would think Mac Hollins should be starting anywhere in the NFL. A journeyman wide receiver that really hasn't lashed on anywhere, and all of a sudden he's our wide receiver too.
Oh,
on the outside.
He's a captain though. He brings, like.
I mean, that may be a great locker room guy.
Yeah.
He's just certainly a really good special teamer, but he's definitely not. If he's your wide receiver too, something's gone horribly wrong.
Yeah, it's the Curtis Samuel stats from yesterday. Finished actually with negative yards.
Yeah,
negative
one for what do you get? One catch for negative yards.
Yeah, 1 for 1. Okay, I understand that coming in, maybe we had the wrong image that Curtis Samuel, hey, he's going to be the deep threat. No, actually, he's a slot guy. They don't have any idea how to use him.
And anybody who had thought that he was a deep threat has just really never watched him play football. I mean, he's that slot gadget guy. He's probably closer to a poor man's Deebo Samuel than any kind of sincere deep threat.
Yeah. Mike Underwood, our guest from On Track. Tim Schneider here as well. You can write to us on X, The Fan Rochester. And bringing up Tim's other point there, Tim, the safeties for Buffalo. I don't want to say I want to give Cole Bishop a pass because he was bad.
I mean, it's a mistake.
But
it can't happen. But the way that it looked makes it so much more unforgivable.
Right.
Yeah, it's a bad play by a rookie, but the way that it looks on film is going to be an absolute nightmare for him to have his career basically start that way.
Well, it also is, I think, the safety position. If you had to pick toughest positions in the NFL, in my mind, I would rank them this way. Number 1 is the quarterback, of course. Number 2, I'd say the tight end because you got a lot of responsibility and reading leverage and doing all that stuff and trying to figure out to be on the same page as your quarterback. And number 3, the safety, particularly in the Sean McDermott defense. And I remember when Troy Polamalu came into the league, and he was a first-round pick, highly regarded, and his first few games with the Steelers were just not good, but then something clicked. So I'm not saying Cole Bishop is Troy. Yeah, I'm not saying Cole Bishop is that, but the hope is that he could figure it out. Michael, like you said about Hamlin, I'm not so at this point, DeMar Hamlin, we know what he is,
Yeah,
and has not started. I don't understand why you brought in Mike Williams. Like, Mike Williams has been healthy here for the last month. This isn't training camp. He's not dealing
Mike
with
Edwards.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
From the
Safety.
Chiefs.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, where's he been? You know, there's a lot of guys like that on the Bills roster for whatever reason don't see the field. It's like they're just not in the Sean McDermott tree of trust.
Yeah. Ron writing in. I would have thought that one Josh Allen run at the end of the game could have chewed up a little more time, but I'm sure that Houston still had 3 timeouts. Okay. This is the other counterpoint. And I hear what Ron is saying, that, okay, a stuffage, right, and then no timeouts. Here's why you want to do that, okay? Let's say, even though you don't get the first down, every yard in that situation counts. And if you then have to make Houston use all their timeouts, they don't have a timeout at the end of the game to line up the kicker.
And they're not planning. If they ran on first down, Houston's conceding to overtime as well. They're not going to waste their timeouts. Maybe the first one.
No, I would definitely use. No,
after that,
yeah.
that's what McDermott was implying. Like, we need to get the first down just so they know we're going to overtime. But he was concerned about. If he was concerned about that, though, they would have been running the ball to make sure that those timeouts no longer existed.
Yeah.
You get the timeout, or you get the first down, you're guaranteed overtime. But they threw it 3 times and stopped the clock 3 times.
Yeah,
So
when you are punting from your own end zone, and Sam Martin had a good day, you're doomed.
Yeah, that was a good punt, honestly, because I was concerned he was going to take the safety. That'd be the normal Billsy.
Yeah.
At the end of the game,
a bad snap, or he steps on its plant foot to boot it, and 100%. The game ends that way.
Yeah.
That was the Bills' way to end it.
Actually, you saw that too. And like, wait a second, he's actually lining up out of bounds. What are you doing?
I'm literally staring at his feet the whole entire time. Honestly, they're snapping that ball. I'm like, look, we got it away, and we got something.
Yeah, and then, but when you had all that space, what do they say? Outkick the coverage? Like, yeah that was, kinda, it was like, I'm thinking, put it out of bounds. In studio here, we have the 1-hour pregame show. Who actually tunes in for the 1-hour pregame show on any of these two?
I would be today because of the team involved, but no, I am 10 minutes before the game, 1 minute before showtime. Let's get it going. And
1 minute, yeah. Like, can we just razz you like the Mandalorian? Like, does Tim know? I'm like, yes, he does know.
It's again, one of my flaws is I am a time cruncher. I am awful at time management, but I will be there when I'm supposed to be. Never early, which means I'm on time. Always on time, which means I'm probably late.
You know, it's interesting because I know somebody else that we're railing on for being bad at time management. And I can tell you this, that Sean McDermott, when they say 11 o'clock press conference or 4 o'clock press conference,
Tim's the Sean McDermott of the sports.
When you ask me when I'm going to be in for Fisher, I tell you noon, and you know it's going to be 12:10. So it is what it is. We'll be there before airtime.
Cops do it.
By the way, Fisher,
we're working on that too.
Oh yeah. It was. If anybody was with us on Saturday, we were putting a big old smile on. It was the Courage Bowl. It was a great event.
I'm very nervous for that Cortland game, though. That might not be fun.
No. But this week, not to bore people with this, but what do you do when you're playing? Fisher's playing an opponent that.
This is gonna be fun for you.
Define fun.
COVID era.
Yeah, like. Their opponent, Hilbert, has been outscored 271-6 so far this season. I understand it's year number 2 of the program.
Yeah.
But wouldn't you just accidentally trip into some points at some point?
Not when you're that bad, but I'm most excited for you getting to broadcast the game from a science classroom. That's going to be really fun for you.
That's
a little bit inside baseball, but that's what you're doing.
That's what I'm doing. Yeah, like they don't have a stadium ready at Hilbert. They're playing at St. Francis High School. St. Francis High School doesn't exactly have a press box. They're like, oh no, we'll let you in a classroom, and it overlooks the field. I'm like, okay,
it's gonna be great. You're gonna love it.
Yeah, that's that'll be great. Maybe I'll just do it from a cell phone and right down on the
field.
School,
yeah,
old school.
Yeah, you feel better about yourself.
That actually might be really fun. Maybe we should try that. Old school technology.
Let's take a break here. We've got we'll keep you updated on the baseball now. So Guardians and Tigers don't start until 4:08. Yankees at 6:38. We can get into some baseball. It was a fun sports weekend, but again, you saw it, Bills fans. How do you fix it? That's the question. Here would be my checklist. One, the safeties. You're sticking with Bishop. Let's see what Mike Edwards can do. Like, let's get the next man up. Two, the wide receivers. Oh no, this is now falling into Brandon Beane's territory. He's got to figure something out. In fact, I'm thinking, all right, well, they're bringing up Shavers. What could? I don't know. We didn't get any separation yesterday either. So your thoughts on where the Bills go from here at the wide receiver position, along with Tim Schnetter and Mike Underwood. My name is Gene Battaglia, and this is The Fan, Rochester.
Sports Update.
Lost back-to-back weeks now, losing on the final play of the game in Houston. More to it than that. Sean McDermott on the offensive woes.
Just overall, not enough production on first down as an offense, not enough third down, really manageable third downs to convert and move the chains and keep the pressure on their defense. And so we got to do a better job there.
We'll talk more Bills next hour. Ryan Talbot from NewYorkUpstate.com joins us in the 4 p.m. hour. Monday Night Football has the Chiefs hosting the Saints. Baseball a little after 4 o'clock today for the start of the Tigers and Guardians. Cleveland with a 1-0 lead. The Yankees at the stadium tonight taking on the Royals. Game 2 there in New York, leading 1-0. Sports brought to you by GetMyPerks.com. Get some fall fun at Stokey Farms. For this and other great deals, log on to GetMyPerks.com today. Gene Battaglia, The Fan, Rochester.
Pull up a stool and join us. 585-866-4FAN. 866-4326. The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
I am happy Danger got to see a win yesterday. First time in decades he actually went to Chicago. His daughter, kind of a meetup. Was a little worried, though. Like, at the beginning, I'm like watching this. I'm like, oh, gosh, Carolina took the lead. They got the first score on Chuba Hubbard, but blowout after that. Yeah, so good on him. Danger will be back tomorrow. Gene Battaglia with you. Tim Schneider here. Mike Underwood as well from On Track. Tony in Rochester, phone number 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Hey, Tony, what's going on, buddy?
I just want to say the one positive thing I have to say is I'm happy we didn't get our doors blown off and we didn't, get slaughtered in the game and we got back in it. But we, this year, the AFC is pretty much wide open, there's a lot of really good teams, but the teams that should be really good aren't, and the Chiefs are beatable. And that was the worst clock management I've ever seen. And there's no mystery of what we do on first down. We run the ball every first down. We don't do any play action on first down, nothing. Brandon Beane's got to go get a receiver. I mean, plain and simple. And this stupid play that we do every week where we throw the ball behind the line to Curtis Samuel, no one's falling for it. So they just got to do something because I'm sick of watching them melt down every time they're in a game and they lose in Bills fashion.
Yeah, Tony. Yeah, I can't disagree with any of that. No, I mean it's to me, 13 seconds is tough to top, knowing that you would advance essentially to the AFC Championship game,
and most likely the Super Bowl.
Yeah, the sequence yesterday defies explanation, though. At the end of the game, and I guess Sean McDermott did it. And Tony, thanks for the call, appreciate it. 866-4FAN. Tim, I guess that was something we normally don't see. Sean McDermott accepting the blame. He never accepted the blame for 13 seconds.
He no longer has anybody he dislikes that he can throw under the bus, though. Everything is honky-dory in that coaching staff, so everything falls on him now. He doesn't have a scapegoat. He is the scapegoat. And there's no more excuses for McDermott. It's not now or never, but how many more nows are you going to have before it's never? It's not – you cannot grow as a team when you have these same issues over and over every year, not every week, but every year. The same problems keep arising, and it falls back on the coaching staff. And now McDermott is the guy. There's nobody he can throw at or away. Everything that happens within that room is on him.
Yeah, it's Mike. I just go back to how many other coaches would have done that yesterday, and I'm going to push.
Not
back
any that are still employed.
Yeah, right,
I mean, honestly,
I'm not anybody that says, "Hey, you guys would have been all over McDermott, had you run, and you would have lost in overtime." No. Because, again, you have one hand behind your back with this kicker. See, that's also part of this, too. And it's so ironic because in the Houston playoff game, when this all started, how did Tyler Bass come to Buffalo? It's because Sean McDermott didn't trust Stephen Hauschka.
Right.
Stephen Hauschka could not hit from 50. They had a chance from 50-plus to win that, didn't take it. And then it ended up losing. That was a factor. And then the next year, all right, let's go spend a 6th-round pick on a kicker. All right, well, I'm looking at Kaimi Fairburn yesterday, and this is so routine now.
Oh, 100%.
It's like they have to narrow the goalposts or something, make this
No one thought he was missing that kick. No one
No.
anywhere watching that game knows anything about football. I mean, that was money.
No, I should have turned it off at that point.
You knew the ending, yeah. To go back to another part of that call is the Curtis Samuel thing.
Yeah.
It's never going to work if that's all he's out there for. As soon as he's out there, it's a gimmick play, and they know that it's coming, and it can't execute if that's all the routes that he's running.
That's fair.
That was disturbing to me yesterday, and here's why. Because Shakir is out, and Shakir, now we realize the value of a Khalil Shakir. I thought they would have Samuel just, okay, we're going to plug in, and you're going to run his route tree.
Run the seam.
And you're a professional, Mike.
Right.
You should know all the routes and everything. And
I'm quite sure he does. I mean,
No,
in Washington, you've seen it. He's put it on tape.
It seems like this is, I think, it's true of all businesses, but in football in particular, that the guys we battle with in the past, I trust them. And if we are going back to Carolina, that's like that's the reason, because Brady in Carolina, and since I'm throwing my pen, I'm so upset. The Samuel, and I think you spent $24 million on that.
That's to not use him.
Yeah, to not
And to go to Mac Hollins is the better option.
No, and then Marquez Valdez-Scantling is kind of a mystery too here. I look, okay, they promoted Shavers. Shavers being the Pittsburgh All-Star, and
Right.
I was screaming from the mountains like, I'm not buying this. I'm not buying this. Where everybody's saying Terrell Shavers was going to be the answer.
Yeah, and again, it's like you've got the same kind of issues in this wide receiver room that nothing is changing with it. Nobody's improving. You've got injuries to the guys that are supposed to be good, and there's really nobody stepping up. All these guys have been not established, but they've been worthwhile elsewhere, and none of them, once given an opportunity here in Buffalo, have stepped up. Mac Hollins is a fun guy, great to follow as like a covering the team, but he's not a NFL starting receiver, and there's no way around that. All these guys have been successful or on a 53-man roster in the past, but nobody is filling the role that they've been provided here in Buffalo so far.
We've got Matt in Rochester joining us. Again, I remember Matt in Greece, 866-4FA. I don't want to sell Greece short. I grew up in Greece. Matt, what's going on, buddy?
Hilton East. Yeah, that's right. Hilton East.
Hilton East. All right. Yeah, that works too.
Present a different argument. That's all. I think that the exact same thing would have happened had they ran 3 times. The Texans had 3 timeouts. If you're a decent coach, you're using them. So the Bills still have to punt it. The Texans still get the ball. They still kick a field goal and win it.
But they don't have as much time, and they needed every single second there to get it
done. I see what you're saying. Like, so if you don't, like, say if it's no gain, and then a punt, I would listen to your argument there, but I'm going to assume the Bills get a few yards, and by getting a few yards, it's going to bleed just a few seconds more, and by getting a few more yards, then you're not punting out of your end zone, essentially. So sure. I'm saying that you're right in saying that, hey, like that plan wasn't foolproof either, but to me, that's the best option. I thought you were going to say, hey, like eventually, like, did you not watch the game? Like Buffalo was going to lose that game in overtime anyways, and hard to say, but Matt, thanks for bringing that to attention. Appreciate it. 866-4FAN, 866-4326. I don't know. What did you think about, like, if you run there?
You would like to get a little space, right? Obviously, so, you're not, like we talked about earlier, you don't have your punter's heels on the end line back there, if nothing else. But at the same point, like, for the last 2 seasons, it seems like the only running play in our playbook is a dive or off tackle. I mean, there's other plays you could run here, guys. I mean, where's the jet sweep? Where's the end around? I mean, you could try something to that magnitude to try to get some room. Obviously, they're going to stack up the line of scrimmage. But, I mean, yeah, you have to bleed down their timeouts, try to push the ball as far as you can downfield. And then at that point, if you still lose, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, the whole play-by-play here where the Texans get it on a field goal, okay, that was with 7 seconds. They get the ball back with 7 seconds at the 46.
Right.
Okay, and they used the middle of the field to Agumbawale. It was pretty good, by the way. They get it to the Buffalo 41. They use the timeout. So in that scenario, you're calling a different play. You can't use the middle of the field if you are getting it back there with 7 seconds. But
right.
So did would have played out differently if the Bills had run? No, we can't say that for sure. No, we certainly can't. And for that matter, the Bills would have lost, in overtime perhaps too. But appreciate the call, Matt. Again, our number 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Mike, while we got you here, now you're a Red Sox fan, and this is the fall where you're just kind of sitting and watching and not kind of observing. But the one thing I forgot, and I should have known, I put this out there, and again, recency bias, this is the take, that's the flaw in my take, that baseball has the best postseason. And they're like, well, hey, the Stanley Cup playoffs too. And if your team is in it, yeah, it's exquisite. But
exciting.
For everybody else, if you weren't a Mets-Phillies fan, maybe you're watching football and what they had to offer yesterday. And I'm watching both Saturday and Sunday, just like edge of my seat right there.
Yeah, it's awesome. Especially, even not being a fan of either of those teams or any of the ones that have been on prime time, it's just flipping back and forth. It's baseball postseason is just next level. It's the best form of baseball.
I had this weird feeling last night, Tim, come over me, because in that back and forth game with the Phillies, I wasn't even that upset. Castellano got you, but the thing with baseball, we're second-guessing McDermott, and we're all pointing at McDermott, shame, 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 you should have known better. Well, baseball postseason, whoever your team is, you can do that in any loss, especially one that's won by one run, but can I second-guess the Mets manager for bringing it or for leaving Severino out there? No, it was going fine up until then. Bringing in Diaz, well, no, he got him out and then didn't get him out. I just didn't find myself kind of saying, oh, you should have done this or that, and that's what gets people upset.
It reminded me a lot of Game 1 last Monday, except the conclusion of the game was the opposite of what happened with the Mets coming back to win. You have to do what you have to do to win the game, and if they put McGill in the 7th and he doesn't get it done, it's done right then and there. You use your closer in that spot to make sure that you have an opportunity to win the game. And then he comes back out for the 8th and doesn't execute. There's not much you can do with that. And then he can't pitch the rest of the game. He's a closer.
Yeah.
So you go to McGill, and you hope it gets done. And that game should have ended on the Harper line drive off the wall that was
barely foul, yeah.
And he got bailed out, walked him, which was probably the right move. And you hope to get Castellanos out, and he's got 2 strikes on him. He had both those guys with 2 strikes. And you throw a pitch, you don't execute, and the game's over, and you sit on it. And the bummer of it is it changes the entire scope, at least from my perspective, of the whole series. You leave Philly up 2-0 and momentum with the day off, or you have to sit on a heartbreaking loss with a day to think about it.
They weren't sweeping Philadelphia.
Probably not.
No, I don't think so.
But 2-0 is a whole lot more comfortable than 1-1.
For sure. And I think this is a team also that kind of blew Game 2 in Milwaukee, and then the game came right back. So, and again, Philadelphia is much better than Milwaukee. Just a minute on if anybody caught this last night. So the Padres mow over the Dodgers. That's tied up, but I didn't think LA fan could be throwing things on the field and security
it's crazy.
And everything. Well,
there's been a lot of bad blood recently.
Yeah, and if you saw this, I'm not saying that it was right. Certainly, I'm not advocating that you're throwing things on the field, but I can understand how it escalated to this point. So you have Mookie Betts up at the plate. Game's still in question. And the thing that's kind of different about Dodger Stadium, and actually I like Dodger Stadium, and Fenway has the same thing too.
The low wall.
Yeah, the low wall.
Yep.
You don't get the low walls in these new stadiums, but in the old parks, this is how you want.
Fantastic seat.
Fantastic. And if you were sitting in the front row, wow, you are literally right part of the action. So it's one of these shots high, and it's so confusing to the point where Fox, the announcers, I give them credit, they were both they didn't call it right away, but they're putting up Mookie Betts home run graphic, everything, and Mookie Betts, and then you see Betts as he's rounding second, kind of tail off, and well, that's kind of weird. And then they show back what Profar did. If you haven't seen this,
ultimate troll job.
Yeah, you have to see this where he reaches over second row of seats, and you've got fans reaching for this ball. And if they're entitled to the ball, that's in their territory. This isn't Bartman. This is my home team. Here comes a home run ball. And Profar just outleaps him with the glove and goes and yanks it right back. Now, from the TV angle, which is so wide, You don't see this in real time. So Profar has the ball. He knows he has the ball. You see the left field stands going crazy, and they're all thinking it's a home run, except for those guys.
And
that
how
were really,
they didn't know is like,
how did they? Well, Mike, it's like the way Profar kind
well,
of
those
reacted.
front like 4 rows, you know.
Yeah,
what I mean?
so you had fans jumping up and down, and Profar starts jumping up and down to mock those fans, and then you realize, oh my gosh, he ripped a home run, and he's trolling Dodger fans?
Pretty tough.
I loved it. Like I am a baseball guy more than a football guy, so I was watching that more than the rain delay football game. And like watching this series has been like watching all of the playoffs has been awesome. The games execution and quality wise may be lacking, but supremely entertaining. Everything so far in the baseball playoffs I've loved, and the Padres trolling in LA, love it.
Yeah. It's like you want that to go 5. Baseball would love it to go 5 between the Mets and Phillies. The Royals, can they give that was a back and forth game too. How many lead changes in that? So
and the way that it ended also a little controversial because Chisholm was out. But I mean, the challenge system, getting that wrong, I don't know how they do that, but that's a time for a story for another day, I guess. But it's not the first time this postseason that the challenge system has been wonky. So they must see something or not have access to the angles that Fox is providing.
The other thing, too, is the Guardians and Tigers. Look, if your Guardians pull this off today with Skubal on the mound, I mean, it's just very clear. You could beat a good pitcher. Yeah. You just have to work counts. You need to get him out of there. Like, that's how the Mets got game 1. Wheeler was unbelievable for Philadelphia.
Patient.
Yeah, Wheeler's dealing, and I'm thinking, all right, if you can just make this a bullpen game, and they're only down 1-0, and sure enough, like you're a Philly fan, it's like you love your lineup, you hate your bullpen. It's eternally.
It's been that way forever too.
Like the
always.
Same team,
same team, different players. Yeah, different characters, and it's the same result every year. Their bullpen is going to be their Achilles heel, but they've got the bats that can get it done, and the starting pitchers to get them to hopefully where they would like to be.
I love how, like, they're introducing, I don't even know the guy's name. Well, here's so-and-so for Philadelphia, and, well, he's pitched in the major leagues for a number of years, and this is only his second postseason appearance. He pitched for the White Sox back in the COVID year, and, well, he was on Arizona's roster last year, but they didn't even trust him. They didn't say it that way, but, like, it's like, okay, you've been on winning teams, but you're not on the playoff roster? Yep. Okay, that's not a good plan. So, yeah, baseball has been fantastic. And, again, we'll have the off day. I think baseball should have scheduled this a little bit differently, to be honest. Like, Friday night should have been Dodgers-Padres. There's no reason why that shouldn't have been Friday.
Why go head-to-head with football when you don't necessarily have to, you know?
Yeah, it all worked out last night because of the rain delay. All right.
Yeah.
So
that was fun.
All right, so how much football, we'll all go around here, in the Cowboys-Steeler game did we actually watch? We'll start with you, Mike, last night.
Made it to about the first quarter, end of the first quarter.
I watched all the way through, but I was more focused on that Padres game until it became the blowout that it did. But I caught the end. I watched. I was intent on the half of the fourth quarter for the Cowboys-Steelers. The rest of it was kind of just on.
Didn't watch a minute of it.
Good.
That was like you
didn't miss
honestly,
no, you
like
missed not a thing.
It's one of those. All right, watching the Mets and I should know this kid's name, the running back from Boise State. He's the favorite.
I know how to spell it. Ashton Genty.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say it, but I know how to spell it.
If you watch this kid. And again, he's the Heisman favorite at this point. And my son said, "Hey, we got to watch Boise State, Utah State." I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "Here's why." Shows me the highlights of this kid. Okay, so the best comparison I could come up with was, do you remember Doug Martin, the muscle hamster? So here's this running back who's doing all those things out of the backfield, and he's bouncing off players. But then if you kind of took the qualities of Marshawn Lynch and put him in that size of a body, I'm like, holy cow, this kid is physical, and you cannot bring him down. So, yes, Ashton Genty is his name.
His numbers this year are otherworldly. He's already at over 1,000 yards, 16 touchdowns. I think they played 4 games. Like, he's averaging 10 yards a carry, 11 yards a carry. Guy's a stud.
So Boise State against Utah State, they put up 49 points in the first half. Wow. So that was my Saturday watching Mets, Boise State, and then going over to baseball after that, watching the Dodgers and Padres. So you can imagine, Mike, by the time that would have been game number 6 had the Steel. I guess I could have, but like at some point. I don't know.
These are the best football Sundays of the year, though, because you start at least on Sunday you start the London game at 9 o'clock, and then you go right up through.
Too, yeah.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
That was delightful. And again, pointing out obvious things for Bills fans to make yourselves feel a little bit better today. You're playing in the AFC East.
Yeah.
The AFC East. And we have time to talk about the Jets. And I know Brownie brought it up today, and the Jets will probably blitz and everything else.
That is a tough defense. But
it's a tough defense.
We have a tough defense. So Buffalo does.
Yeah, the division is fine, but for a team like the Bills, that's no longer the goal. Like, you get into the playoffs, that's fine, all well and good. But if you don't have anything else going on, then playoffs isn't the goal for this team.
If you're watching on the YouTube stream or Twitch, now you see Derek the Pizza Dude kind of coming in. This is like, this is real time. We're figuring out things on the fly here today. Don't anybody tell Danger. I want him to come back and think we were totally under control. Everything was fine. To your point, Tim, about the Bills, the bigger thing, I honestly, get in. Get in.
Yeah, get in the playoffs.
Get in. I mean, do you want a better seating? Like, look around the AFC. And we had a caller earlier today say, who's beatable in the AFC?
Everybody.
Yeah, like Kansas City's going to be on tonight, and they'll probably win. It'll be 5-0.
I don't know. I think this is shaping up to be a pretty good game, though. That Saints team is pretty tough.
Lost to Philly.
They'll probably beat the Saints. It'll be a better game than I think people would think.
Yeah,
at first glance, anyways.
Look, if the Saints show up today, it's a weird matchup tonight, and I'm going to be curious to see what the ratings are tonight because, all right, and I think I know which way Tim would be leaning tonight, and a lot of us have fantasy, and that's probably why we're certainly keeping or
FanDuel.
Yeah, fantasy, FanDuel, anything, right, Mike? But you're still keeping an eye on the Yankee game tonight. You're
oh yeah,
yeah, like the Yankees starting early.
I'll be rooting against the Yankees, of course, but it'll still be great baseball.
I think it's also curious that some of these game times are kind of odd, right? The Yankees at 6:38 tonight.
The way that it's funny, and like I get it, working all these Amerks games. Like our broadcast time is 7 typically, but puck drop is 7:07. I think they're just basing it off of first pitch time, and it saves them. It buys them more time to sell the extra 8 minutes of commercials.
Oh, I get it, but so first pitch time is 6:38. For the Yankees, like the primetime window technically doesn't start till the 8 p.m. hour. Like the local things are in the 7 to 8. You would think you would want the Yankees, and that's why the World Series, or the NBA Finals, you see them in that hour beginning at 8:07 or 8:10 or whatever it is. Yeah, I guess they're just kind of banking on the fact that let's kind of pull people in. Honestly, Tim, I think that baseball is they don't want overlapping games. They don't have to have overlapping games. I mean, you have all these different networks.
Yeah, that's probably true. I mean, when there's 4 games, you don't have a choice. But I think that it's a good strategy. The timing is bizarre, but I think it's fine. I want to be able, at least me, I want to be able to sit through 6 hours of baseball. That's the kind of person that I am. It might not be for everybody, but if you can give me a full day of baseball starting at 1 and ending at 1, I'm in for all of it.
Yeah, but you're a dying breed, dude.
Yes,
you're a dying breed. So that's why, I would figure, okay, we got 2 close games. Let's kind of sit with this here. The fact that Mets Phillies, we're not going to have a game in the prime time at all on that. That's a fact. It's going to go 5 o'clock, and Friday. If we get to Friday, 4 o'clock.
Well, do you like? Let me switch sports here. Do you like the 2 Monday Night Football games? Because I hate it.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I think it's great. The early ones.
No, it's funny how people hate it.
Like I want to be able to watch. I want to be able to watch all of both of them, and I can't do that. And that's
what's the difference between that and a Sunday at 4 o'clock though, or Sunday at 1? What is the difference? There's no difference.
I guess I don't have a great
devil's
answer
advocate.
for it,
What if one of those 2 games is a clunker? You have another option.
Yeah, last week,
and you never really know.
Titans Dolphins last week.
That's fair, but if there's only 1 game, I'm invested in that one. If there's 2, I have to choose, or 1 sucks and it chooses for me. But I want to be able to watch all of everything with the assumption that it's going to be a competitive game.
Mike Underwood joining us in studio today. We're in the new studios here. This is like
fantastic.
Finally, like we have a monitor where we can actually watch sports.
Professional broadcasting. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Mike Underwood, where you hear me voicing the commercials for On Track Auto.
Many years.
Many years. Mike, tell everybody how they can reach you.
You can come over and see us. We're in Gates, 1312 Buffalo Road. Phone number is 436-4359. Looking for an affordable car, coming in and look us up. Ask about the Chuck Muncie discount.
See, do you see we have Chuck Muncie?
I did. I caught that out of the corner of my eye when I sat down.
Isn't that fantastic?
That is the most appropriate thing in this room.
Danger went to a collectible show in Virginia. This is over the summer. Comes back, was all excited to show this. It is it's a photo from when Muncie was with the Saints.
Right.
And this says everything about the 1970s, where clearly he looks like he's knocked out. Somebody has the smelling salts underneath him.
Looks like he came out of a boxing ring. I mean, look at him.
Get back in there. One other take here on the Bills before we go. Can we acknowledge the whole return to play for Josh Allen? Just the optics of it. And again, we're not there. We don't know. But for a league that is so concerned about optics.
But they're not. I mean, when it really comes down, they have to beat the drum about player safety, but they don't care. You know, they don't care that much.
I thought that was incredibly crazy for him to be able to come right back.
Yeah, I thought under no circumstances were we going to see him again.
No,
the old Minch Trubinsky coming in there.
I get it. Sometimes like you need an extra second if you have your wind knocked out of you or whatever it is, and we saw that with Aaron Rodgers a few times. But this seemed different to the point where, okay, Allen just doesn't seem to be responsive after banging his head against the turf. Okay. What, are you going to the blue tent and you know exactly what questions to ask? What day is it? Sunday.
Right.
Where are you? Houston. Okay, great.
Yeah. I don't know how they did that, but it was very bizarre to me that he was able to clear it that quickly. If all it was him getting his wind knocked out, okay, good. But for everything that's happened to Tua, you'd think that there'd be some questions about how quickly he was cleared.
Yeah. That's it. Mike, thanks for stopping by.
Yeah,
buddy.
thanks for having me.
Yeah, we got time for your calls. We also have Ryan Talbot from NewYorkUpstate.com joining us in the 4 o'clock hour as we'll try to figure out like what options are there for retooling the wide receiver room or the Bills.
Good one.
Yeah, it's got to be something, Mike. It's got to be. 866-4FAN, 866-4326. This is the Sports Bar on the Fan Rochester.
You're listening to the Sports Online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
The comeback comes up short for the Buffalo Bills. They lose on the final play to Houston. The Bills scoring only 3 points in that first half. Josh Allen knows the offense has to step it up.
We were off slightly tonight. That's something I got to clean up, and I'm proud of how we responded in the second half. Got on our horses and gave ourselves a chance to win a football game.
Head coach Sean McDermott to address reporters here shortly as we turn the page. Bills facing the Jets next Monday night. We'll talk to Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com. He joins us later this hour here in the Sports Bar. Monday Night Football tonight has the Chiefs hosting the Saints. Just a few minutes from now, we'll get started in baseball. The Tigers at the Guardians, Cleveland up 1-0. Yankees hosting the Royals, 6:38 tonight for the first pitch. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
It's a 59-yard field goal attempt by Kaimi Fairbairn. Here's the snap. Hold is down. Kick is long enough, and it is good. At the gun, Kaimi Fairbairn wins it for the Houston Texans with a 59-yard game-winning field goal. 23-20 is your final score as the Bills fall to 3-2 on the season.
Mike Danger.
We are going to take your reaction on a Blame Assessment Monday throughout the course of the afternoon.
Gene Battaglia.
Sean McDermott did not have his team ready to go last night.
So we try to make sense of what we saw yesterday, but I think the bigger question is, where do we go from here?
Yeah. 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Welcome to the BAM in the Sports Bar, the Blame Assessment Monday. But when you were talking about the blame, I mean, McDermott is like the easy one, but can we blame Brandon Beane? Like, the idea that I get, you moved off Diggs, and was Diggs like you're putting reasons why the Texans won yesterday? Diggs is not in the top 5, that's to say the least. But as far as the plan going forward, Curtis Samuel, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Mac Hollins, fingers crossed promoting Tyrell Shavers from the practice squad. That was a hodgepodge. It is a hodgepodge. It doesn't look like any of this is going to get any better kind of moving forward. And this is the expectation. And I think the majority of Bills fans would be okay spending some draft capital, and if it's not Devontae Adams, there will be other receivers that are on the market, and teams looking to shed some payroll, and teams looking to get an extra draft pick or two. I cannot believe that this will be the plan long-term for Buffalo. Heck, Tim, there's got to be a receiver sitting on somebody's practice squad right now. Go sign that guy. They brought in this guy, Logue, that you brought in last week because you needed a tackle. Little we know that Ed Oliver wasn't going to be available. But, heck, if you thought so highly to go raid Atlanta's practice squad for a D tackle, there has to be a wide receiver somewhere that can help this team.
There's a guy out there for sure, but you have to be right about that guy that you select too, which, again, would fall back on Beane. And, again, does that guy immediately slot into not just a 53, but a playing role? Like, these guys are on practice squads most likely for a reason. You can use them as, like, just blooming there, let them blossom on somebody else's team, and then take them and have them be contributors. But you've got to assess that correctly. And that's probably, I mean, we're seeing it in real time. It's not easy to do.
No. Dawson Knox, he's the highest paid tight end on this team. Is not Dalton Kincaid. Where was he yesterday?
Where has he been for much of his career? I thought that he was going to be a major contributor to the team last year because of them adding Kincaid, and he did next to nothing all year long, and he's done next to nothing. Actually, most tight ends in the NFL this year have done almost nothing, but Knox has not contributed with the addition of Kincaid, and that's not stunning, but I'm very surprised that he hasn't made a jump with one, the contract, and two, the added personnel.
You thought that was going to have mismatches, right?
Yeah.
And what we what we kind of watched here in the last 15 years was New England do this with, Gronk and the guy who's no longer with us on this planet, right? Like you had those guys kind of doing this in 12 personnel. It's to create mismatches. And to me, Dawson Knox looks like he's regressed here too, and he's not part of the solution. I'll put it that way.
No, there's a lot of expendable guys on the starting 22 that I wouldn't expect to. Well, I guess Knox isn't technically a starter, but you know what I mean. There's a lot of contributing players that aren't as good as they should be.
It's clear that Shaqiri is the guy. Like, and by the guy meaning, all right, is he really a true number one? Well, on this team he is. And if you have Kincaid, Shaqiri, and James Cook, those are three guys you got to account for. But then you take one of them away, it's you get the result you got yesterday. And actually, a lot of Bills fans like that Houston defense wasn't great. It's not a great defense.
Josh Allen was worse than Deshaun Watson yesterday, and that's almost impossible to say.
Deshaun Watson is.
I mean, he's bad.
No.
But
No.
Allen was bad yesterday.
No, it wasn't good at Josh Allen. I will give you that. Brad in Rochester joining us. Brad, welcome. How are you, buddy?
Oh, well, I'm recovering from whatever it is. Brady has got to find out in his playbook where are the man-beater plays. I know McDermott fell on the sword saying, I called those plays at the very end. I don't believe it. I know he probably let Brady say, hey, you know what, call what you need to do. And Brady may have asked Josh, hey, what do you want to do in terms of the down here at the 3-yard line? It is what it is, but I think more and more Amari Cooper sounds like the person to go for, and we can give up a second and a fifth for him, and $600,000 is not horrible for someone who can come in, be big, and be separating.
Yeah, I'm looking up his contract right now here, Amari Cooper, and thank goodness for Spot Track. What do we do, Tim, before Spot Track? And
rely on somebody else. Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, he's $1 million right now, but at the trade deadline, he'd be about $600K.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a cap hit for Cleveland at 8.7. Tim, how are the Browns against the cap here?
I think that they have some of the most cap room in.
You could. Let's make this happen. Brad, I like the idea. Thanks, buddy.
All right.
Thanks, buddy. Brad in Rochester, everyone. 866-4FA at 866-4326. Amari Cooper right now. Yeah, his base this year. Boy, the Browns do this, right? Let's give him a really low base. $1.2 million. That's it. And, if you're the Browns and you have that player that will fit underneath anybody's cap, even a team like Buffalo, they're wanting a player in return, I would think, too. I would think like
$43 million in space.
Yeah, they can easily write that off. And if you're being honest with yourself, Tim, like where are the Browns going?
Back to where they've been for much of my life, which for part of it they didn't exist, and sometimes I wish it was still the case. But
it's this is what happens when you tie your wagon to a quarterback. Oh, by the way, you tied your wagon to the quarterback record fashion. By the way, the voice you're hearing, Tim Schneider, Danger's off today, which is just funny. Not funny, but coincidental that you are in today, and we're bringing this topic up because we were on the show March in 2022 when this happened in real time.
Yeah, yes,
when
we were.
Deshaun Watson signing $250 million guaranteed with the Browns. That was the only reason that it actually happened, when he's going to go to Atlanta or New Orleans. Wait a second, Cleveland comes in and. Let the record stay here that you hated the move at that time.
I hated the move at that time. Good guy Deshaun Watson getting good guy NFL quarterback money. Hated it then. I really hate it now. Again, with time and victories, you can kind of not get over it, but you can look past it. He hasn't done that, and he stinks. He's been beyond bad. They made the playoffs last year with Joe Flacco. They were inspired by a guy who was literally watching the Browns play on his couch days before, led them to the playoffs. And they can't get out of bed on a Sunday to play with Deshaun Watson. They've quit on him, and he's quit on them, and he wasn't good to begin with. I think it's been long past due to get Jameis Winston or literally anybody else in there. Let me play. I can at least take a sack and not get paid for it. He's getting paid $250 million to get beaten up. I'll do it for free.
That was the one thing. We were talking about heading into the weekend, games where, that line seems fishy. And the one we identified at Buccaneers and the Falcons on Thursday Night Football, where Tampa on the road was getting 3. Huh. That seems fishy. Danger, don't do it. I'm doing it. He dove right in. Sure enough. Oh, oops. That was the other one. Like, wait a second. Washington's only favored by 3 here? Why? Like, that should be more. Cleveland's terrible. Do they? Oh, wait a second. This is a trap. Nobody believes. No trap there, Tim.
One thing
Sorry.
I noticed about a half hour ago, every single home team won so far this week. All of them. And I don't know if I'm sure it's happened before, but I don't recall a time of it ever happening. Every single home team won, dog or favorite, all of them won. And that's news to me.
Yeah, even Minnesota was considered the favorite over in London. That is true.
Yes.
That is true. Yeah,
London notwithstanding.
Yeah, but that technically they were. Did you watch any of that?
I watched the second half, but I fell asleep during most of it. I saw the end of it. Big Aaron Rodgers guy, have been for his whole career. I'm over him. He's got to go.
Here's the thing with the Jets, and you could say, well, in that Devontae Adams to the Jets chatter.
What about
okay,
Devontae
like,
Adams
that's gonna solve anything. Like, this is a team that literally, what is the plan in 2025 for quarterback? What is it? What is the plan? This doesn't look. I thought this is how we would see Aaron Rodgers after a year wear and tear. I wouldn't think like we'd be seeing this in week 5 where he's crawling on the ground and becoming a meme.
And he claimed that he was able to come back last year if he needed to. I don't think he's ready to come back now. Like, she's shown absolutely nothing of, and age gets you and you don't know it until it's too late. But he doesn't have what he had in Green Bay, and he doesn't have what he had 5 years ago. He's older, but he's not ancient. Like, Tom Brady was doing this until he was 107.
Yeah.
Like, Aaron Rodgers was just about as good as Tom Brady minus the Super Bowl rings. He's got almost nothing left. Like, the Jets miss Sam Darnold, and that's a silly sentence to say.
Yeah, the Vikings were not sharp yesterday either. That had the look of a London game, to be quite honest, where, like, okay, everything is just kind of a little bit off, but to see some of the reads that Rodgers was making. Oh, hey, Van Ginkel, here you go. The other direction. And Gilmore, like, that was, sure, it was the interception. They kind of lucked out with that at the end of the game, for sure. But that should have been a game that the Jets could have stolen. But here's going to be the narrative. Ready? And this happens. Like, as painful as the Bills' loss is, by the end of the week, everybody's like, yeah, ready for the week. Same is true downstate, and the same is true with every other fan base. So when we go and face the Jets, what is going to be the talk in New York? This is the game for first place. The Jets win this game, and they're tied with the Bills in the loss column. And, oh, by the way, we beat the Bills, so the Bills will be looking up at the Jets. The Bills will be looking up at a team whose quarterback lost to Bo Nix. Okay, that would be a lot there. And we haven't even gotten to, the Bills' point of how did they lose this game to this opponent. Houston's not a bad team. I want to point that out. Stroud's an okay quarterback, but that game changed yesterday when Nico Collins went out. Like, if Nico Collins is in, that took him a lot. That's the importance of having a deep threat over the top there. Like, wait a second, what happened to him? Apparently he's been dealing with hamstring problems.
He made them pay, and unfortunately he got hurt. But that game, if he stayed healthy, obviously you don't know what it would be because the results are different. But that could have looked a whole lot more like the Baltimore game rather than a close, heartbreaking loss at the last second.
Yeah, it was. It had that look. But again, the Baltimore game, Tim, I thought, had you not called that dumb trick play, I mean, that you figured that drive, you would make that a one-score game at that point. So that's how close this league is when it comes to margin for error and everything else. And I thought the Bills coming off a loss like they did in Baltimore would have been a little more game ready. But this is the takeaway. And I don't know if you fix this or not. And again, we key in the wide receiver position. It's not just that, folks. Safeties are not good. The defensive line beyond Jones and Oliver, not good.
Yeah,
the depth on this team, it looks like a team that, has some cap problems, quite honestly.
The Nico Collins touchdown on Cole Bishop exposed him as a rookie, and like you mentioned, Troy Polamalu had a couple bad games to start his career. Troy Polamalu is a Hall of Famer. Cole Bishop just needs to be a contributing member of this defense in some sort of way, and he didn't even move on that play.
No.
And the film on that is permanent, and that's something he has to figure out in order for him to make the next step or make a step. He has to make a step.
Well, let's see. McDermott addressing reporters this hour, and we'll figure out, all right, is that going to be, something we're looking for Taylor Rapp? I mean, I'm not a Taylor Rapp guy. I mean, I'm going to say that up front. I think Taylor Rapp is a safety from years gone by where he can deliver the big hit, but you need a little more in coverage, and sometimes he himself is out of position. See the Derrick Henry, whatever long touchdown
untouched.
run. Yeah, the untouched touchdown. But I can understand how something like that could happen, and you would figure there would have been other guys covering for him on that. Like you have one job at Cole Bishop. Don't let anybody get behind you on that. That was your one job.
He stared at him as he passed by.
Yeah,
He basically waved him.
It was alarming yesterday. So back to what I'm saying, first place. That's what's on the line coming up Monday night against the Jets. We got all week to kind of discuss this, and what I'm seeing out of New York. Look, it's a divisional game. Now that's always going to be the thing. Like Aaron Rodgers could put up 17 points in this game, and the Jets win 17-16.
And we're going to get the replay of him in the Achilles 500 times because it's in the same stadium against the same team at the same time. And
the same network.
And maybe, they're coming back from London, so that I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but typically teams get a bye after that. I think they get to choose whether or not that's when they use it.
That's correct. Now, it used to be you got the automatic bye, and teams are like, well, why don't we just kind of suck it up and we want to save the bye till later in the year? The Bills did that last year, and I can tell you what happened. It wasn't great. They played on the following Sunday night, and they nearly lost to Tyrod and the Giants.
I was at that game, and they should have lost that game.
They should have lost that game. That probably was a PI call at the end, and Tyrod's mismanagement there at the end of the first half. There was other teams. The Bills got lucky in that game, for sure. We've got Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com, joining us here in a little bit. We got time for your calls on the other side. 866-4326, 866-4FAN. Mike Danger is on his way back from Chicago. He'll be back with us tomorrow. Tim Schneider sitting in today. My name is Gene Battaglia here on The Fan Rochester.
Sports Update.
No, quarterback Josh Allen is not in concussion protocol. Head coach Sean McDermott speaking to reporters just now. McDermott, following the game, talking about those offensive woes.
Just overall, not enough production on first down as an offense, not enough third down, really manageable third downs to convert and move the chains and keep the pressure on their defense. And so we got to do a better job there.
Next Monday night, the Bills facing the Jets. We will talk some Bills football coming up next. Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com and the Shout Podcast, joining us in the Sports Bar. Tonight, Monday Night Football has the Chiefs hosting the Saints. Baseball postseason. They're in the top of the second. No score between Detroit and Cleveland. The Yankees hosting the Royals tonight. New York leading 1-0 That's a 6:38 first pitch. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Straight up with no chaser. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Like somebody pointed out, Tim, not only were you filling in on the day where we found out about Deshaun Watson, the last time I believe you and I did a show, that was the day of the Diggs search. Yes. You were the one who broke the Diggs news to me because I'm not looking at my Twitter feed, contrary to belief, 24/7. And all of a sudden I get a text from Tim, Diggs. Yeah, and oh my gosh, you're kidding.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this was one of those. Oh, I remember who broke that news to me. So what does this mean that we're going to get Devontae Adams?
Devontae Adams to Buffalo could be a premonition here. I mean, crazy things happen when I'm sitting in this seat.
I'm one Fordham guy, two Bonnie's guys.
Yeah.
Outnumbered. Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com, the Shout Podcast. Ryan, how are you today?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you?
Well, we're trying to piece this together, Ryan. And, gosh, it was you take Khalil Shakir off that wide receiving core, and that just does not look good. How would you assess the situation? Because up until the trade deadline, I think – Bills fans are going to have – this is ripe for your podcast. Who might be available here to come help this Bills team?
Yeah, well, you look at the usage, you look at the personnel, it's pretty baffling why they're running these deep routes with Mac Hollins over a guy like Curtis Samuel who's shown some speed, and they're only using Curtis Samuel in these around the line of scrimmage type of plays. The mantra was everybody eats, but they've been starving these last two games. This offense has looked terrible in the passing game. And, Keon Coleman, really good 49-yard touchdown play on a got to have it down on 4th and 5, but he has not been a regular contributor. He's really struggled to get going. Dalton Kincaid, after a really nice rookie year, has been very quiet. And, I think the Bills not replacing Diggs with someone even close to his caliber was a big mistake because I think they were banking on Kincaid to play a big role. But, you look at other situations around the league, like when KC, for instance, got rid of Tyreek Hill and they continued to play well on offense. Well, they had the best tight end in the league at that time in Travis Kelce, where Kincaid's not at that level yet. So they didn't have that supplement, waiting in the wings. And these guys that they've brought in, the guys that they've drafted, it's clearly not enough. And, you look at who's out there right now, Devontae Adams, the latest from the Raiders, is they want the team that acquires him to take on the majority of that contract. If that is the case, the Bills are out on that. There's just no way to acquire that contract, bring it in. Amari Cooper's a realistic option when you look at the fact that, the Browns season appears to be over. He's an upgrade over what the Bills have. I wouldn't call him a true number one receiver at this point, but certainly good enough where if you add him and Shakir to this lineup, I think the passing game would certainly benefit. I don't know if Romeo Doubs is enough to get excited about if you're a Bills fan, knowing full well that he was suspended over his usage in Green Bay. And then there's guys like Deontay Johnson in Carolina. Regardless of who becomes available, the Bills need to at least be scanning this market, looking to make some kind of upgrade because, you can say it's a rough two-game stretch, but it's clear that these guys struggle to create separation, and that's affecting Josh Allen, who arguably had the worst game of his career on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, there's another player, Ryan, that I would have thought we would have seen more from this year, knowing that Kincaid is going to become more of a focal point with the two tight ends. Dawson Knox, who is what has happened here? Is it the scheme, or are we watching a player in real time, and are we wondering, oh gosh, the skills here after he gets the second contract are beginning to diminish?
No, I don't think the skills are beginning to diminish. I think, one, they've changed his role here where he's on the field. He's blocking quite a bit. And listen, he's the best blocking tight end by far on this roster. There's no denying that. Kincaid's still a work in progress there, but they need to get more creative with their personnel usage. They need to have him running more routes. This is someone that has been with Josh Allen longer than anyone on this roster. There is a rapport there, and as frustrating as some of the drops have been over the years, as frustrating as his play has been in terms of, some games going off for 5-6 receptions, other games being quiet, having 5 targets and 3 receptions through 5 games is baffling. It makes no sense, and it's something where Joe Brady has to go to the drawing board and say, he's one of my better weapons right now. I do need to get him more involved in the passing game.
What are we able to deduce? Because you brought up Brady's name, and McDermott accepted the blame for what happened at the end of yesterday. But Ryan, I just go back to this. All right, let's just say for the sake that the plan was, hey, it's 2nd and 10, we're going to throw long, and inbounds and tackled is going to be Matt Collins. Okay, that doesn't get you in field goal range, and the point is, did they really even trust their kicker to make a 50+ 60-yard whatever it would be? I'm just wondering what was the actual plan there, because a lot of people talking about the end of that game there, Ryan.
Yeah, it's very confusing in terms of what the Bills are trying to do there, because they weren't even trying to just pick up a first down. They were. The first play was a little bit beyond the markers, trying to get the pass interference, trying to get Keon Coleman to use his body to catch that ball. But then you're throwing a deep ball on 2nd down. I don't know what the rationale is there, thinking that they'd be able to get down the field and get into field goal range with no timeouts and the amount of time that they had left. And, I don't know if you've seen this yet or not from ESPN Stats and Info. The Bills are the last team in 45 years to be tied or leading the final game of the minute inside their own 5 and throw 3 straight passes. It's just, there's a reason no other team has done this in this given situation. It just makes no sense for them to be trying that, especially if you're not just trying to move the chains and pick up the first down. I get the predictability of running James Cook 3 times, but if you do that, or if you run him twice in a quarterback run with Josh Allen, one, the Texans have to burn all 3 of their timeouts. You expect them to at least get a little bit of yardage, which would allow Sam Martin to go through his actual punting routine, take the step up and everything else, where he was pretty much pinned against the back of the goal line. He couldn't even take a little bit of a step back there upon catching the ball. I think that probably affected how long that kick went to end the game. And, then if the Texans are able to run a play before trying a field goal, it has to be near the sidelines. There's no way they would risk throwing it in the middle of the field, knowing full well that they had no timeout. So complete mismanagement by the Bills. I know that the Bills have not been a very good overtime team the last few years, but, you work all your way back to this. Being pinned in at the 3, that is not the time to get aggressive like that. You live for another day, and you live for overtime.
Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com, and the Shout podcast, our guest here. And, it's in whenever you get a loss like this, Ryan, where now every mistake we're going to kind of go over and what could happen here. And look, the Bills, the coaching, certainly I would put number 1. We question what is going on in terms of guys that can catch a ball from Josh Allen. Number 2. Number 3 on the list, safeties. That was just not good with Cole Bishop. And I guess the hope is, it's a rookie, okay? This is not, doesn't have a lot of experience under his belt. But I'm also wondering too here, why is Mike Edwards on this roster if they're not going to, at least give him a look at this point, Ryan?
Right. And, with Cole Bishop, obviously, he is the reason they let up that long touchdown reception. Sean McDermott said as much today. I mean, anyone watching the game saw the body language from Russell Douglas pretty much asking Cole Bishop, what were you doing there? You're supposed to be on the deep coverage. It's going to happen to a rookie that missed significant time this summer when you're kind of pressing to having him out on the field. I do think he got better as the game went on. He was, bad angles early on too with some tackle attempts, but he did get better. I almost wonder if the Bills are just going to kind of swallow the pill that comes with getting the rookie out there. This was someone that you invested a second-round pick in. But if you're talking about what's best for the team right now, you're right. How Mike Edwards has not been able to get onto the field makes little sense. I know he was mostly a backup at KC, ended up getting the job after an injury, but he played well there, and he's played well over the years. You bring him in on a contract, and you expect him to contribute, especially when you lose Taylor Rapp to concussion. And DeMar Hamlin's play has been up and down the last few weeks as well. The fact that he hasn't been able to get on the field is pretty baffling. I know he's in the same boat as Bishop in terms of the injuries throughout the summer. He missed a lot of time, but this is also a player that has played so many significant reps in his career that I don't think he would have been in that position yesterday. He would have been deep down the field and making the right call in that scenario.
Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com, our guest here in the Sports Bar. A couple other things from this game, Ryan, just going to get your opinion on. Another hot-button topic was the challenges. I don't think you challenged the James Cook one. I think clearly his elbow was down. But what did you think about the Kincaid one? And here's why I come down on this. Maybe it doesn't get overturned, but the risk-reward, okay, I guess it's still the first half. I don't really care about timeouts in the first half, Ryan. That's the one thing. Maybe they wanted to make sure they're saving their challenges when they get it right. But your thoughts there, because to me, that drive should have still been continuing.
The challenge for that play specifically was so tough that I almost don't blame McDermott, especially because of who they've brought in to kind of help in that regard. I think that they knew that for them to be able to overturn that, there needed to be conclusive evidence. They could have argued that the ball moved after he caught it. He kind of moved it a little bit, but you could also argue that he was just repositioning the ball on the landing. So those plays where it's called one way against you, they're so hard to overturn unless it's more of like a footwork type deal. The ball did move a little bit. He got word from upstairs. I get why they should have, potentially challenged for it, but I also think that this is one where the league would have pretty much come back and said there wasn't enough evidence to overturn the official ruling. So I get why it wasn't called in that moment.
Yeah, and I did listen. You and I, we kind of say that that wasn't a sure thing. Another thing that we're kind of looking at, and again, you and I are not there. We're not in the blue tent, but just to see Josh Allen return to action like that quickly. Ryan, he looked like he was knocked out legitimately. Sean McDermott just confirming minutes ago that, no, there wasn't a concussion, therefore he's not in any concussion protocol. But I was just kind of surprised that he was able to come back that quickly.
Yeah, I mean, he must have, again, the concussion protocol, the testing you have to pass, it leads me to believe that if everything was the way it was supposed to go, he must have been clear-headed and been able to pass with ease, because that was so fast. Because the turnover happened with Dwayne Smoot getting a hand on the football. He misses one play, and then he comes in right after that. You'd like to believe that everything's on the up and up there, but his head did slam down hard on its side. He wasn't moving there for a little bit. They said it was a tweaked ankle, but he's not in the concussion protocol. He's not experiencing any post-concussion type symptoms right now. So I guess, he got very lucky in that regard, because when you did watch that live and you saw the way that his head bounced off the turf, it was certainly a scary moment in a league where you see a lot of players where that happens to, and they are out, and it takes a lot longer for them to get back into the game.
Yeah, Ryan Talbot, our guest here. Ryan, who's good in the AFC right now? People are like, oh, the Chiefs are undefeated, and I guess we'll kind of be paying attention to them tonight, but I don't know if they've hit their stride yet, and I'm just trying to put a smiley face on what is right now not a great last 2 weeks for the Buffalo Bills, to say the least, but hey, they're playing the AFC East, Ryan. I'm taking a look in other places, and I think I'd rather be in Buffalo as compared to some other places in that division.
Yeah, East or the South. I think the Texans can kind of sleepwalk their way to the division there, too. There's some softer competition for sure in this conference, but I don't know how good any team is right now. And I will say, after 5 weeks, the Bills would much rather be sitting here at 4-1. They had no business in that Ravens game, so I can't sit here and say 5-0, but they could have won this game yesterday. But you look at the Jets; they are a disaster on offense. Defense is still playing very well, but they can't seem to get anything going there. The Dolphins won a game yesterday, but They were only mustering, again, like 15 points in that win. I get there without their starting quarterback, but it really shows how bad this offense is without Tua. The division is still there for the taking for the Bills. And the Texans, yeah, they're 4-1, but they've struggled against, Buffalo, Jacksonville. There's one or two other games, too, where the other team's been in it up and down the final minute. It might have been the Colts for one of the other games. So they're not putting teams away either. And obviously they're happy with their record. They want to see how it goes down the road. The Ravens had a nice comeback win, but they struggled against a Bengals team who hasn't been very good this season. I get division opponents are a little bit different. And the Chiefs, despite being, undefeated at this moment, they have not been that impressive on offense. Patrick Mahomes has made a lot of bad interceptions early this season. It'll be interesting to see how they are at the midway point of the year. But to answer your question, I'm not sure anyone in the AFC is going to run away with it this year.
Yeah, it's wide open, I guess you can kind of say, for Buffalo, and at least comparative in the division as we kind of look ahead now to the Jets game. And look, the Jets can say this is for first place in the AFC East, which that would be accurate there if you ended up tied in the loss column and you had beat them head-to-head. I'm sure there's going to be, as soon as they kind of shake off their loss, a little excitement down there. My question is, now that we're looking ahead here, Ryan, I think – getting healthier is certainly big for Buffalo on defense there. We saw Bernard and what that meant. Bernard, heady play, when in doubt, let me go find where that ball's going to Diggs. I'm going to get the interception. What about Taron Johnson? Is this the week we see Taron Johnson return to action for Buffalo?
I think it's certainly trending in that direction. They're probably going to want to see how he looks throughout the week. But the fact that he was questionable going into this game tells me that he was trending in the right direction, getting closer. So I think in a big AFC East matchup, there's a good chance that he suits up for the Bills, comes back, which is going to help them significantly on the back end of that defense where, some younger guys have been filling in admirably, but you're not getting all-pro type of play at that position like you will with Taron Johnson coming back. And you mentioned Bernard and the impact that he had in this game yesterday. Great to see him back out there. Dorian Williams, it really feels like they're onto something with him. So you love the future of this linebacker position. You still have Matt Milano coming back at some point, probably later in the year. So, it's good to start to see these players trickling back into the lineup. Now it's just about keeping them healthy and keeping these other key starters healthy as well.
Yeah, it's hard for me to say and you to say anybody else, but I'm going to be curious to see whether the two guys that weren't available yesterday, I don't know if they win the game if you have Ed Oliver available, but I know the offense had to have looked better with Khalil Shakir if he's available. But the fact, Ryan, they didn't at all practice last week, the fact that they were ruled out on Friday, I'm not optimistic, but I'm going to hold out hope until at least we get to later in the week here.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Because Sean McDermott said today, it's like a bunch of players are kind of status quo. They need to get more. They need to see more. They're improving, but not necessarily improving enough to play. I think that there's a chance Shakir comes back, and that'd be a huge boost for this offense. We've seen that no one else can really create separation. How important he is to Josh Allen in the middle of the field. You look at yesterday's game, and it really didn't look like the Texans really respected anyone on that receiving core in terms of being a threat. There were some big plays where they put their number one cornerback on Dalton Kincaid. So it shows you that they think Kincaid can make plays like that, but they're not worried about the Matt Collinses of the world, Curtis Samuel, who they can't seem to get beyond the line of scrimmage when they're throwing him the ball. And, MVS has been a complete non-factor, and that list kind of goes on and on. Keon Coleman as well with the lack of separation, using his body to make some plays, which has been great. But you start to wonder why the Bills weren't necessarily going after a speed option. They said that they needed some speed early in the offseason, and then they went the complete other route come draft time.
Could it be possible that they just didn't, like they thought they had? I'm trying to think of guys that we had at Fisher, and we actually had KJ Hamler on the show. I'm thinking, this is something that they really could use, and then I don't know, that just kind of like fizzled out really quick there. I'm just wondering, is there any other sometimes you forget who's on the practice squad. Oh, there's Shavers. Maybe he's going to make a name for himself, and Gosh, Ryan, I don't recall seeing, and I'm sure people will point out what he did and didn't do on the all 22 there. But your thoughts on, are there any other options that we might have missed on, whether it's dating back to Fisher or anything on the practice squad right now?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think they missed anything there. I thought Tyrell Shavers had a really nice block on one big run play, or it might have been the Ty Johnson play down the sidelines.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was open on the 4th and 5 play. I thought maybe Josh didn't go that direction before he went to Coleman, which obviously resulted in a much better play than anything that could have happened on the other side of that line. But KJ Hamler, the speed's there, but there's a reason why he's on this practice squad while no one has poached him yet. There's the injury history, so I don't think that there's anyone necessarily waiting in the wings on this team. They need to go out and get someone by a trade.
So, Ryan, last question here, because we got Tim in here today. Like, how can we get Woj on the show here? Like, the Bonnies used to come up to Rochester every year and play a game, and it was really kind of cool. And now they don't. So I'm just kind of wondering, like, what's because if you're like anything like Tim here, you must have been on like cloud 9 when he came back and started now going to be directing, calling the shots for your basketball team.
Yeah, I was very excited about that news. Definitely caught me off guard when it was announced, but couldn't be happier to have him at St. Bonaventure. I finally got that follow back on X after he became part of the Bonnies, so excited about that too, to be quite honest. But it wouldn't shock me if he'd come on. I think he'd be more than willing to come on and talk about his role as the GM, and obviously there's talent. They're going to be scouting all over the place in this area, including the Rochester area.
Yeah, I mean, heck, we are dying for like Division I basketball in our town, and just kind of like putting that out to you. Ryan, what do you and Matt have coming up on the Shoutcast, and what can we check out this week on NewYorkUpstate.com?
Yeah, we'll definitely have a podcast on Wednesday, kind of our staple show. We'll have one later in the week to preview the Jets game, obviously. And then throughout the week, we're going to have different articles about turning the page on this loss to the Texans, but also looking ahead to a huge divisional matchup against another offense in the AFC East that has not come close to meeting expectations this year.
Ryan, appreciate you. Always doing great work, you and Matt there, the Shout Podcast, NewYorkUpstate.com. Thanks so much for your time today.
Yeah, you got it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Ryan Talbot joining us here on the show as taking a look here, and now the Tigers with runners on the corners. So what happened, if you're wondering, didn't Tim want to jump in on those questions? Perhaps. Tim had a bigger assignment here while that interview was going, and anybody can kind of relate to this because honestly, Tim, I know what I have at home. I didn't know what we have here.
When that screen popped up, you looked like you had seen a ghost. I know what you're talking about. I've never used that remote either. I just finagled and figured it out.
Right. Okay. So apparently,
I had no idea what I was doing.
I don't want to say anything negative about any, but we've all been there with the streaming service, then all of a sudden, it froze. And you have to upgrade to a TV, make sure your router, make sure you're at 5G, make sure you got all these things. And so the reboot successful. We got the game back on here.
And
got it back.
Got out of the inning too, so
there
I
we
can
go.
breathe again.
All right, so they go to the bottom of the second. Detroit and Cleveland are still scoreless. It was great to be talking to Ryan Talbot about some of these issues. I still think you challenge that play. I still think that Kincaid because
there was nothing to lose there other than a timeout, but you didn't need. You had 3 of them at that point.
Right, lose the timeout, and then you only get 2 challenges. If you hit on both, you get a third. So technically, you could have lost a challenge,
Whatever.
but no, this wasn't a 7-yard possession. A 7-yard reception, and then you're bringing up second down. This was to keep the drive going.
Right. This
is a possession.
I don't know. It might be analytics. It might be just rapid action. Like there's too much going on at once. But it might be all coaching staffs, but you notice it more when it's one that you see every week. McDermott's got issues with the intricacies of coaching. He's a good X's and O's guy, but when it comes down to executing things in crunch time, he's failed time and time again.
The crunch time, he got it right in the game against Baltimore a few years ago. We joked that's the master stroke game. By the way, I did reach out to him.
Good.
Chris, like he's there. Everybody's down actually legitimately concerned for anybody in Florida this week. Holy cow! If you haven't heard, and again, this is off topic, but it's now a Category 5. That went from like nothing to Category 5. Yeah. So
And
that's
destruction. Some of the videos that I've seen just on like Instagram and stuff, it's bad.
it's going to slam in, and then you don't see quite often like hurricanes just kind of go plow on, coming on the Panhandle side that often. But back to the Bills and back to what we were talking about there about McDermott. Sean McDermott, game-wise, at the end, like you could say that's Brady calling the plays. You could say that's Allen kind of doing his own thing and wanting to take the shot. That has to be the head coach making it known to QB and offensive coordinator, this is what we are going to do. And what would have been the analytics to drive, can't be 50 yards, like you'd have to drive 60 yards.
They needed about 65 yards and 47 seconds.
With no timeouts.
Which is doable. It's been done against them. But but not in that spot.
I think it'd be more likely that you actually turn the ball over. I'm thinking this is how the game's going to end.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm having flashbacks to Peterman throwing a pick six there to end the game in that end zone years ago. I'm wondering, like, what are we doing here with this? And to anybody, again, this is just sports. It's nothing personal. But when Peter wrote in, hey, guys, you would have been complaining had, McDermott would conservative. I don't think so. I think this Bills fan base, by and large, pretty intelligent, understands kind of some things, and we see a pattern here. So, to me, that was acting as if you had Gabe Davis and Steph Diggs and Khalil Shakir and all these guys that weren't on the field yesterday. You have to recognize that you didn't have anything at that.
Yeah.
So can you win the game in a different fashion? And by different fashion, overtime. You get the one possession now in overtime. Your defense is actually playing really well. Your defense held them to 3 crummy points in the second half. Like, what? All of a sudden that was going to change in overtime?
And at minimum, you've got to remember, he wasn't concussed, allegedly, fine. But he was banged up. No doubt about that.
Yeah, that's also a factor, too, if they were being honest with themselves.
Like, you've got to know the personnel out there, and you've got to know what their capabilities are in that exact moment. And they failed that yesterday.
Yeah. Well, we had the happy hour here in the sports bar. As again, we'll keep you updated on baseball. Detroit and Cleveland, bottom of the third. There is no score. And Skubal, boy, if you could just work the count against him, Tim, that's what you got to do.
Yeah, they got to get pitches up on him.
Yeah.
He's got to be at 50 after 4, and I don't think we're going to get there. If he pitches more than 6 innings, it's going to be a tough game to win.
We can't call him the Tribe anymore, can we? They're not called the.
I call them I adapted to the guards.
Guardians.
I don't
guards,
know. Like,
yeah.
Tribe. I don't think Tribe might be.
It's
still a group of people.
I'm looking at your hat. Anybody that's watching right now, turn a little bit to the camera there,
Sure.
Tim. It is the dumbest looking logo. It's so dumb. It looks like a 5th grade art project, the Guardian logo.
It's the modernized, like the Arizona or the Phoenix Coyotes from back in the day, like the clip art. But it's like modernized clip art with like angels in the outfield and Major League mixed into one actual real baseball.
It looks like the owner's son did that. Okay,
It could have been. Maybe it was a contest and the kid won. Then it's cool.
Yeah. Look, you got to find something better than that.
It's so bad. I've got like 6 of them. Oh well.
You're a fan. 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Mike Danger will be back tomorrow. Tim Schneider in. My name is Gene Battaglia. This is The Fan Rochester.
Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
Plenty of blame to go around for the Buffalo Bills now that they've lost back-to-back weeks. The Bills falling on the final play to Houston. Offense got going slow yesterday. Josh Allen on being off.
We were off slightly tonight. That's something I got to clean up, and I'm proud of how we responded in the second half. Got on our horses and gave ourselves a chance to win a football game.
Next Monday night, the Bills facing the Jets. As far as Monday night tonight, it's the Chiefs hosting the Saints. The Guardians get out of a jam, a runner on third with one man out. They now go to the fourth, and it's Cleveland and Detroit, no score. A little after 6 o'clock tonight, it's the Yankees and Royals game 2 in the Bronx. Sports brought to you by GetMyPerks.com. Today, save half off the Stokey Farms. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
It's a 59-yard field goal attempt by Kaimi Fairbairn. Here's the snap. Hold is down. Kick is long enough, and it is good. At the gun, Kaimi Fairbairn wins it for the Houston Texans with a 59-yard game-winning field goal. 23-20 is your final score as the Bills fall to 3-2 on the season.
Mike Danger.
We are going to take your reaction on a blame assessment Monday throughout the course of the afternoon.
Gene Battaglia.
Sean McDermott did not have his team ready to go last night.
So we try to make sense of what we saw yesterday, but I think the bigger question is, where do we go from here?
Yep. 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
You know it's going to be easy this year, Bills fans, right? When they're 3-0, there's talk about the top seed, but the fact is, who's good in the AFC right now? You got the Chiefs tonight, and boy, it wouldn't surprise me at all if the Saints gave the Chiefs a game tonight. And granted, we got a long way before teams start hitting their stride. Afternoon once again. Gene Battaglia with you. Mike Danger is on his way back from Chicago, and good that he picked a game where they won the Bears over the Panthers. He'll be back in studio tomorrow. Tim Schneider back here, and I'm impressed, Tim, because when the Mets were playing this time last week, okay, and that was a game they needed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how long a week it's been here. like you had to beat the Braves, and they're eliminated, and you had to beat the Brewers, and they're eliminated, and now we're here, and I'm not the one watching playoff baseball. It's you in your Cleveland gear here today. You're actually quite calm. I'm impressed.
I try as sports fan. I try to be even keeled. It's to the point where I'm ultra negative about things, but I think right now I will say I didn't catch the third out. Otherwise, I might have elicited a response or a reaction. But I'm nervous inside, so I can't. I'm not outwardly emotional for really anything. So I am wearing it inside, and my stomach hurts.
Yeah,
nobody's ever gonna know that.
Isn't that great? That's what we kind of live for. Whatever your team is, when you get to the playoffs, and you almost forget when your team hasn't been there in a while. Playoff baseball can be really
the sweat. I mean,
really cool. Every pitch means something. And anybody that wants to say baseball is boring, well, I would respectfully disagree on that. Well, today we are mainly talking about the Bills, mainly talking about what was that sequence at the end of the game, talking about what do you do now at the wide receiver position? Curtis Samuel, -1 yard yesterday. That's impressive. Sarcasm. MVS, invisible. You've got some problems right now. And until we get an answer here from Brandon Beane, I would expect something to happen between now and the trade deadline, which would be November 4th. Our phone number here in Happy Hour, 585-866-4FAN, 866-4326. Luke in Rochester, welcome. What's going on, Luke?
Hi, Gino. Thanks for taking my call. The biggest problem the Bills have is Coach Sean McDermott. All right. So the guy takes the proverbial sword. It was his decision. I don't know if he's protecting his stoolie, which is, what's the offensive coordinator's name? Joe Brady.
Yeah.
He's not innovative at all. He's just pretending. But he was useful because he got rid of Dorsey to save his life. Dorsey at least had some ingenuity. Now, McDermott, if he really called those 3 pass plays at the 3-yard line, at a time when the Bills line was not protecting Allen, he was risking a safety or an interception. And like you said, Allen was buzzed out. He probably had a concussion. They're hiding that. They're not going to disclose it. Allen claimed it was a chest injury, taking a page from Tua. On his first concussion, there was not ruled a concussion. But by the way, last year, I told you guys that Allen suffered a similar fate in the Monday night game with the Jets. And that's why he threw 3 interceptions, 2 after the concussion. The NFL was wise to it the following week. Everybody and their mother, sister, cousin was in all NFL games across the board were going to the 10. So why has McDermott not learned anything? Now, there's this principle called the Peter principle, where somebody ascends and rises in positions to a point where the appointment renders them incompetent in the position that he reaches. That's McDermott. He has 0 value offensively. Why is he making any determinative decisions in close situations within 2 minutes when he cannot give any serious offensive input? By the way, I don't think he's that good defensively. How about that 3rd and 14 late in the fourth quarter when he's got his zone crap defense playing 20 to 22 yards off the line of scrimmage? Guess what? A little dump off to the back ends up gaining the first down. He didn't learn similar play in the playoff game against Houston a couple years ago, a second playoff game. Same thing occurred, 3rd and 19.
Taiwan Jones. Luke, thank you for the call. Appreciate it. And I want to just kind of respond here. Tim's got a big smile on his face. I knew Luke was.
That's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, let's just focus on the McDermott stuff. Okay. So I think, Luke, we can all kind of ascertain that McDermott accepting the blame. I want to point this out. He didn't do that after 13 seconds. That always, to this day, is stuck in my craw. That was blaming it about execution. Oh, okay.
That led to the direct exile of Leslie Frazier, correct? Is that the timeline on that?
It would be 1 year later.
Okay, but
so
that
like
was
the band
that was the bus being through.
That was because that was Dable's last job. Dable gets the job with the Giants. But let's just focus on what happened yesterday, because McDermott needs to have everybody on the same page there. Meaning, okay, if you want to, you can't be allowing your offensive coordinator, if that's the way this actually went down, to be throwing pass plays. You can't be allowing your quarterback, who wants to take the big shot. You have to protect Josh Allen from himself in that situation, meaning, hey, you're going to have options on these. And how do we know that maybe that wasn't the play, throwing down the field to Hollins? Because the cutaway, and watch the replay on this, the cutaway to McDermott talking in his headset, you can see him mouthing, and you assume that's to Brady, hey, we should be going for the first down here. You're damn right you should be going for the first down.
They didn't.
We took a call earlier, too, that said, hey, all right, well, you run the ball 3 times. You're going to be still kicking the ball to Houston. And
a fair point.
Okay, it's a fair point,
However,
but you're going to gain at least something on those 3 plays, at least in a game where in a sequence where every yard would have counted. 5 yards there, having your punter not backed up. Yes, that would have been the difference. And yes, it would have been the difference because then Houston can't run one play and call the timeout as they did at the end. You knew that when they got the ball at midfield that they were going to do anything. And, Luke, if you want to point out something, I'm not upset about the long play to Ogunbowale. Look at the last play by Houston. Your safeties are playing 25 yards off the ball. Like, what are you going to – Houston's going to, like, air it out and go for the bomb to end the game? No, they're going to try to get into the field goal range and use their last time out. You literally played shorthanded on that last play. So there was a lot in that last minute to kind of unpack. And the irony here is – sometimes irony gets used the wrong way. No, the irony is that it was actually Houston showing incompetence on the final minute of the game, where all they had to do with that play by Ogunbowale. You know what was great about that play? The great thing for Houston was he gets the first down, he sits his ass down and bounds. He knows exactly, let me have the clock run. I'm like, well, the Bills are dead. And then you throw to Dalton Schultz, and he goes out of bounds. You moron. That stops the clock. And if it couldn't get any worse, they call another pass play, and then your quarterback gets called for intentional grounding. So the fact that Houston had to punt it away, all right, we're going to go to overtime. Tim, never did it ever cross my mind that you would actually be giving the ball back to Houston.
To lose in regulation.
I'm thinking you're taking knees here, or you're just going to be running plays or whatever it is.
One run play probably sets up overtime, and they went 0 for 3. Did Josh Allen complete a pass in the fourth quarter? Not many, if any.
Well,
he was 9 for 30 in the game.
Yeah,
so.
I'd have to go back and look at the sequence
but
there.
He struggled mightily for 60 minutes, and making – you let your studs go off, sure, but when they don't have it and you see that they don't have it, you don't force them into doing something impossible. A 95-yard drive or even 60 yards they needed to gain for a potential game-winning field goal from a guy who has not executed all season, actually like 2 years now. You can't put your team in a position to fail, and that's what McDermott and company did last night. And you've got a bunch of different ways to lose that game. None of them should have been in regulation once Houston punted that ball with a minute to go.
I'm looking through the play-by-play, and I don't know if he did complete a pass. You know what also hurt, too, was the sequence there where you get the takeaway, and instead of getting 7, you only got the field goal, making it at that point.
Right.
So you're tying the game, but if you go ahead, you get the 7 there, you win the game. But Allen is not on the field for the first down, and then you look at the second down play, and you look at these receivers, and these receivers all look like me and you and anybody else, average Joe out there running. There's just nowhere for Allen to go. So to me, the everybody eats thing, it's kind of dead. It's kind of the
nobody's eating yet.
No, it's the 2024 version of complimentary football.
Right.
Like,
you
nobody's
can feed
eating.
Whoever you want.
No,
if they're not going to eat, then you can't do anything with it. You've got to it's crazy because in a pass-happy league, James Cook's got to be your guy in a game like yesterday. You run him into the ground and you throw the ball to him and make that guy make plays because nobody else seems capable of doing so, at least so far this season.
Yeah, James Cook underused.
Which is a crazy sentence to say within a Josh Allen offense.
I was expecting more Ray Davis to this point because the running back position should be one where it's plug and play, and I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. It seems like they trust Ty Johnson more than they do Ray Davis at this point, but that wasn't a good Houston defense. To me, pedestrian. And Houston's 4-1, but what are they really? They're going to win that division, and they could be a team that hosts a playoff game and then gets knocked out by a hot team that enters as a wild card. For the Buffalo Bills, Amari Cooper looks very attractive, Tim. I think the Devontae Adams situation, here's the thing with Adams, okay? Well, go trade for Devontae Adams. You really think it's that simple? You'd have to.
Right.
No.
On the surface, sure, go do it, but also,
no. You have to bring in Adams in his representation. He is not getting traded to the majority of his teams in this league without restructuring his contract and taking something up. Therefore, he can nix anything he doesn't like. So that is one part that nobody kind of talks about here, that in order to facilitate a Devontae Adams trade, you actually have to kind of negotiate with Adams himself. Maybe to the point where you're doing the Diggs thing where, all right, you get the money up front, you're a free agent after this year, go cash in.
It's got to be something that they figure out sooner rather than later. It's really hard to make moves in season.
We're looking over the options. I don't want any part of Romeo Doubs.
Right.
To me, he's somebody that getting all pissy in Green Bay because you weren't getting targets and then you don't show up to practice. I don't want that element in my locker room. Pass. No thanks. Sure, some team will take a chance. I don't think that team should be Buffalo. There are better options out there. Another name that's come up, Deontay Johnson. And this came up last week with Danger's. Like, I don't like the player. And I'm like, I agree. I think Deontay Johnson has something that, really nobody has in this Bills offense right now other than Khalil Shakir, and that's separation. Except Deontay Johnson, his hands suck. He's just not that good when it comes to catching the ball. Pass on that. Christian Kirk, all right, maybe, but that's an owner that still thinks, that his roster should win. So are they going to be interested? I keep coming back to Amari Cooper. And if the Browns are being honest.
I'm not being honest, because I've failed my entire life as a Browns fan. Don't give up, but also it's probably the smart thing to do. But how many times you got to rebuild a broken ship? Just blow it all up.
Well,
but again, he's going to be. I am apprehensive on trading Cooper as a Browns fan because I know they won't get what they should for him, which means it's a perfect fit for the Buffalo Bills. You get to sell a mediocre third-day draft pick, and you get a salvageable, usable, immediately pays dividends receiver, at minimum wide receiver 2 behind Shakir, and probably wide receiver 1 as soon as he walks into that room.
Yeah, I don't think Amari Cooper, they want a second-round pick. They're not going to get a second-round pick.
That's what I would want.
You would,
but
I think.
But I know that's not what I'm going to get.
If I'm the Bills, I'm offering the Rasul Douglas deal to Green Bay, meaning, all right, you know what? We'll give you a third, but you're going to kick us back a fifth. We'll let you move up a couple rounds here. What makes this really attractive is that you can make the move, and it fits under Buffalo's cap. Why do the Browns do this with the low base?
I think it's so they can legitimately afford to pay Deshaun Watson, and it's kicking everything down. Eventually, they will find cap hell, but right now they're in heaven.
Wow, that must be really great as a Browns fan. That your team sucks right now, but guess what? It's gonna get worse. Everybody,
yeah. Well, that's 36 years of existence. Actually, 33 because they didn't even exist for part of my childhood. I just love that. Every single season, it starts with optimism, like, oh, it's Sunday, they might win a few games. I know they're not actually good typically. This year, they were supposed to be maybe not better than last year, but they had their guy at quarterback finally healthy, and he stinks. He's awful.
To be fair, I've only watched one Browns game in its entirety, and that was the Giants game. I'm like,
and that stunk.
He's not making good decisions. You could say Josh Allen had a bad game yesterday. I will listen to that. I'd also point out Josh Allen didn't turn the ball over. He has learned something along the way that, granted, there were a few passes like, what are you doing, Josh? But anybody who knows anything about football knows, there weren't guys open. Okay, I'm going to throw you open. That was always the criticism. We need our quarterback to throw you open. Okay, I'm going to throw. Just turn around. No. Bops Keon Coleman in the helmet. I love the person who put out the Peyton Manning bit after that.
I didn't see it, but I'm familiar.
The Peyton Manning Saturday Night Live where he's throwing it off the back of kids' heads, because he's bored in retirement.
That's got to be what it feels like for Josh Allen sometimes, though. Knowing, it's tough being the best player on the field at all times, but knowing that he's got to work with these guys that don't have what he has, it means he has to work harder, and it makes it worse in the end. And I think that, eventually Keon Coleman will develop into a reliable, probably number 1 receiver, but he's shown that he is still a rookie in his first month of football in the NFL.
The kind of close up things on the Diggs storyline, and Steph Diggs did not beat the Buffalo Bills yesterday. But what was interesting was I was wondering how long would they kind of embrace pregame. They didn't. The two didn't cross paths, Allen and Diggs pregame. They did postgame, and it was very brief. Now, Diggs did talk to Deion Dawkins and other Buffalo Bills players. So, I mean, again, I'm not going to read too much into that because emotions following a loss sometimes will run high. And they should run high. Some guys don't give a damn. I know that comes as a shock, but I've seen it in the tunnel where players of the losing team might have a smile on their face.
Went in, did their job, and went home.
Yeah, they don't really care. I mean, my job is to do the job to my best of the abilities, and I get graded out. You want guys who care, though. And
yeah.
I would think that Allen might have cared a little bit yesterday, so I'm not going to really – honestly, I don't care if Allen and Diggs didn't talk at all yesterday. It's done. It's in the past. It's over with.
It's two humans that work together that no longer work together, and they might not have anything good to say about each other.
I mean, it's one of those human interest stories, and I would put it this way, Tim. Like, it burned bright. It went south. What happened? Well, have you ever had a friend, or maybe it's you, went through a divorce? Like
a practice wedding, yeah.
Yeah, like we're like, yeah, whatever relationship goes, it burned bright. You could drive yourself crazy thinking what it just did, and you don't blame the other person, you don't blame yourself, you just kind of move on and make the best of it,
right?
Knowing that you brought in Diggs, and oh, by the way, kind of did the same thing in Minnesota
and had a lot of success. Don't let that go away. Like, the Bills have been a very successful team. They just haven't accomplished the ultimate goal, and apparently that's the only thing acceptable at this point in Bills fandom.
Well, we talked last week with Dan Fates, like with Diggs, like it is more of a baseball thing. Like, assuming Diggs puts up numbers, maybe he gets into the Hall of Fame someday. What does he go into the Hall of Fame with? Again, that's more of a baseball
thing. You mean like
thing.
the hat? What jersey does he get?
Yeah, and the fact is, as great as these years were in Buffalo, he's known most for the Minneapolis Miracle.
Yeah, I mean, definitely.
Yeah, and for Houston, I truly believe this is like a one and done.
Too early to tell, but yeah, I don't think he's.
I think he'll go to the highest bidder next year. Watch.
It would be really funny.
No.
It would be.
No, it would be funny.
I won't even say it out loud, but it would be really funny.
No, you and I are thinking the same thing. You know where he's going to end up next year.
It would be really funny.
He's going to end up next year, and I'm not going to be happy whatsoever when he ends up in Kansas City. So that is just not cool.
That photo of him losing the championship game, sitting out there alone, will become lore in a completely different way if that were to occur. But it would be really funny.
We've got shots coming up in the sports bar, some of the things we did not get to. And, one of the things I do want to talk about here, and let me just pull up the tweet. Chris in South Central Kentucky. Of all the football action this weekend, there was no bigger surprise, no bigger upset, no better pick your jaw up off the floor game. No bigger probability than Vanderbilt beating Alabama.
He's got 180 characters, and he's going to use them all.
That was, look, right. I think the funniest thing about Vanderbilt, Alabama is, and I don't know my Nashville geography, Tim. I've never been there. I kind of have a feeling. I know, like, at the one end, there's the river, and at the river, they have the Titan Stadium, right?
Yeah.
And I know, like, kind of leading up to the river is what they call Broadway. Yep. Again, I've never been to Nashville.
Same.
I didn't know where. I had no idea where the Vanderbilt campus is, but Vanderbilt, they took out the goalpost. Like, this is the 1988 Buffalo Bills when they tore down the goalpost. They tore down the goalpost, and then they brought the goalpost 3 miles down Nashville. Can you imagine what that been? Woo!
Their very own championship parade.
Yeah.
And actually, of the 88 Bills thing, the person on the historic photo is my friend's dad. Fun fact.
The one he's standing on the crossbar?
That's my friend's dad.
Do I know your friend's dad?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But, yeah, it's a confirmed fact that I know the person on that.
You know, that's kind of funny. Like, when you grow up and you're being an adult, like, yeah, when I was a kid, or when I was in my 20s, this is actually me taking down this, committing a crime. The Guardians. All right.
Sports are happening.
Yeah.
We like it.
All right, so we got to run around second. We'll keep
Finally
you updated on
solved Scooble. Took 5 innings.
Yeah. Well, they haven't.
Now capitalized.
Yeah, they haven't scored yet, Tim. Easy.
Finish the job.
Yeah.
That's the first hit of the game, by the way.
Oh, okay. No score in the 5th. We will give you all the action that we haven't gotten to. Shots coming up in the sports bar with Tim Schneider. My name is Gene Battaglia. This is the Fan Rochester.
Rochester Sports Update.
Bills sitting at 3-2 following the last-second loss at Houston. The fact is the Bills got off to a slow start on offense. Head coach Sean McDermott.
You know, just overall, not enough production on first down as an offense, not enough third down, really manageable third downs to convert and move the chains and keep the pressure on their defense. And so we got to do a better job there.
McDermott this afternoon confirming no, Josh Allen is not in concussion protocol because, well, he doesn't have a concussion. Next Monday night, the Bills facing the Jets. Tonight on Monday Night Football, it's the Chiefs hosting the Saints. They go to the top of the sixth. No score between Cleveland and Detroit. The Guardians with just one hit so far. Yankees hosting the Royals coming up at 6:38. New York leading this best of five, 2 games, 1 game to none, looking to go 2-0. Gene Battaglia, sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
The only way to take the Fan Rochester with you is the free Odyssey app. Download it today and follow the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Shots in the sports bar, things we haven't gotten to, but certainly we can discuss here as we got last call coming up too. We'll take your calls at 866-4FAN, 866-4326. The Yankees looking to go up 2-0 on the Royals, as we mentioned. I want to see the TV ratings for this, Tim, going head-to-head against Monday Night Football because, well, it's the Chiefs, and it is Aaron Judge. It's the premier team in terms of interest in Major League Baseball, the New York Yankees. That is going to be a 6:38 first pitch, TBS and Max. Today, the travel day in the National League. So Tuesday, we get the Mets and Phillies getting the early start at 5:08. Dodgers-Padres tomorrow at 9:08. Both those series tied at 1 game each. And I guess I can't complain about the 9:08 start because I've been able to catch both of these series so far. What happened last night in Los Angeles?
Man,
boy.
Not good.
No, I mean, usually that's something where you see you get guys like that would be New York, Philadelphia, throwing things on the field. The idea that this happened in Los Angeles, things being thrown on the field, but I'm not excusing the behavior, but I can understand because what Jurickson Profar did, that has to be one of the biggest all-time troll jobs.
It wasn't out of line, though, I don't think. It was just, like, it got him going. It worked.
It
was
totally
a heel wrestling move.
It did.
I loved
it. The play is this, and this is something that I wish more stadiums had. I'm glad they kept it in L.A. You see this at Fenway. The first row, you're like right in the middle of the action. Like players can jump over. You got to be paying attention. So it's Mookie Betts. He's up at the plate. It's a long fly ball to left field, and it's in the first 2 rows to the point where the announcers, they're pausing. They don't know, and it's – well, whoever's doing the Fox camera, home run, they're blowing things off, Mookie Betts. But then as they're keeping the camera on Betts,
as he rounds the bases,
as he rounds second, then all of a sudden he starts kind of slumps over and like, wait a second, why is he doing? Oh my gosh, he actually caught it. They go to the replay of Profar. He goes into about the second row, grabs the ball away from a fan. So first of all, let this be a lesson and think of like the kid in New York years ago with the Orioles, Jeffrey Mayer, that was his name. That could be your ball too, okay? Bartman hurt your own team, but if it's the opposition, you get that home run. But Profar yanks it back. It was not touched by a fan. But in all the confusion, everything, you really can't see. So even in the immediate rows around where that ball was yanked back, you have fans jumping up and down, thinking, yeah.
Right in front of them, yeah.
Right in front of them. So what does Profar do? He doesn't give the fist pump like, yeah, I got the ball. He starts jumping up and down back at the fans, not showing the ball. And oh, he caught the ball. Fantastic troll. And again, game 3 of that series, again, tied now 1 game each. The story nationally, Hurricane Milton, like this morning, Tim, it was at a Category 1. It's up to a Category 5. So for everybody down in Florida.
Dicey.
Yeah, I texted Earl from Masterstroke, and like they're not working this week. Already the boards are up, so our thoughts are everybody down there. And what is different about this, like it's going to consume the whole state. How big Florida is going to go right in. So everywhere from Tampa is going to take the brunt of this, it looks like. But even down in Fort Lauderdale, Miami, where they were supposed to have a ring ceremony tonight for the Florida Panthers, $20 going to charity. That's been canceled. Players are going to get their rings in private. Tampa Bay canceling their last preseason game against Nashville. That's a who cares, right? The Lightning are going to open up their season on the road in Carolina on Friday. The Buccaneers, they've already gone.
Yeah, they're heading to New Orleans already.
Yep, so they're not even going to practice at home. They're just getting out of Dodge right now. Milton, again, like when I wrote this morning, Tim, it was a Category 1, No, it's already a Category 5, and that's the highest you can go. It's going to hit sometime on Wednesday. Right now, sitting out in the Gulf of Mexico, as big as you can imagine. We got this far. Congratulations to us. Without mentioning the Buffalo Sabres.
I hope we were going to go the whole show. I came in hoping to never even hear the name. All right.
Yeah,
you blew it,
yes.
but we got to do it.
Yes, those games count. The Sabres start the season at 0-2. J.J. Peterka suffering a concussion after a hit from Devils defenseman Brandon Dillon. Somehow that was not called a major, the home opener coming up Thursday against the L.A. Kings.
Yeah, and there's the Guardians game going on right now, playoff baseball at its crux. There's a lot of things going on. You've got the Monday Night Football game tonight as well. As Gene mentioned earlier when we started shots here, the ratings is one thing that I didn't touch on when you brought it up. It's going to be a bad day for a baseball guy, me, or baseball writer when these ratings come out, because even though it's the Yankees, that Monday Night Football rating is going to tower over that Yankees number.
Yeah.
I'll be watching
and let's call it for what it is, right? A lot of it has to do with fantasy football. A lot of it has to do with betting. A lot of it, it's like you're a Yankee fan, you're watching the Yankee game, but if you've got Kelsey or Mahomes or Kamara or anything else, you need tonight's game, you're going to be watching them. And let's face it, it's also the Chiefs too.
And that's a double for the guards for people that care. Just me.
Talk some Bills and Sabres with Randy in Rochester. What's up, Randy?
Hi, how are you?
Great. What's going on, buddy?
Well, I'm having a hard time putting words to what I witnessed yesterday, what I was watching. That's probably the most poorly coached game that I've seen the Bills have since the Patriots took over. And that includes 13 seconds. God only knows whatever happened with that, but we won't get into that. So I don't understand where the lack of the game plan was planning for, one, Deion Dawkins playing on half a hamstring, and two, no clear Shakir. They didn't seem to have a plan in place for where they were going to go with the ball other than Shakir. I understand the everyone eats mentality, but Shakir's been your chain mover other than Kincaid, and all that defense had to do was key on Kincaid, and then the rest of the receivers didn't get any separation, which nobody seemed to adjust to that until coming out of the half, and then thankfully the defense decided they wanted to play football the second half, which is the only reason why we were still in the game to begin with.
Yeah, Randy, I think and appreciate the call. It sounds like you're on the road there, and thank you for calling, Randy. Our number 866-4FAN. Was that the? I still have to say 13 seconds is the all-time doozy.
I think only because of what it prevented them from doing. I think this was a bigger gaffe, but I think the circumstances surrounding it are obviously much, much lower than...
Yeah, well, 12 men on the field against the Broncos last year, and then the 12 men on the field, the result of the game, you fire the offensive coordinator?
I don't think most teams can pluck all these things out of the last 5 years. This is a routine problem that I don't know if they can fix it. I think it's just one of his traits.
Well...
I mean, you fix it by firing, but that's crazy.
Who did he learn it from? See, history has rewritten Andy Reid just a little bit here, but Andy Reid, when it came to timeouts and that sort of thing, great the Monday through Saturday preparation and everything, and a football guy. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, sloppy on Sunday. Sloppy. But now you get Mahomes, you win some Super Bowls, and you get a chance to rewrite everything. We had some great college football. Miami down by 25. They came back to beat Cal. We were talking about Vanderbilt over Alabama a little bit. You had Arkansas over Tennessee. And Syracuse Friday night, they won an absolute barn burner, 44-41 in overtime against UNLV. LaQuint Allen with a touchdown run. But, Tim, quite frankly, I don't think that should have counted. His forward progress was stopped on that.
The college rule is different than the NFL, I've noticed. Or it's just poorly officiated.
It could be
But I watched that game from start to finish. And I don't know if Syracuse is a legitimate, ACC champion contender, but they could be a top 25 team in an actual bowl beyond the Pinstripe Bowl this year. They're good.
Yeah,
Kyle McCord's a stud.
By default.
Yeah.
They're playing a really crappy schedule.
I guess it
I mean,
depends.
UNLV is a ranked team, but you're not. Clemson isn't on the schedule. Florida State, as bad as they are this year, they're not on the schedule either. Like, you look at this and you thought, that's why the Stanford loss, just brutal. Like, well, there goes that opportunity. But could I see the Orange, I don't know, like at the end of the year, like at 8-4, 9-3 maybe? Guardians now with runners on the corners. Tim, you're very, very calm.
I'm trying.
One other note here is ESPN has named their replacement for Adrian Wojnarowski.
Is it? Oh, okay.
Shams jumping over to ESPN. That seemed like plan A from the beginning. I thought it was kind of comical that they were kind of bantering about Jeff Passan.
Yeah, I saw that rumor while he was on. They were at the campus of St. Bonaventure University, just hanging out. And I think that rumor just became from that photo. It's like, oh, he's getting his contacts. Like, no, they're like legitimately friends and they're hanging out and at his new job. But I think people picked up on that photo and said, oh, he's going to be their guy now.
Yeah.
And he already is their guy for a different sport.
Yeah.
So I think Jeff Passan is one of the greatest baseball writers. Running joke, but that guy's a superstar writer. It would be insane for him to have changed. And Shams already was Woj, but for a different company.
Who gets paid more, the NBA beat guy or the baseball beat guy?
NBA.
Yeah. Oh, right.
They're both well compensated. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But Woj,
but
Woj gave up a lot of money to take that job.
You know what they say, stay in your lane. That there's also something to be said for that. Like, know the sport inside and out and contacts, and that's a really tough thing. And the thing, if you don't know Shams Charania's story, he's a self-made guy.
Yes.
Meaning, nobody was hiring him, so he started working for like just a website on the side. And you think, hey, that's good enough. I'm going to get a press credential. No. He's living in Chicago. The Bulls wouldn't give him a press credential. So he was driving 2 hours to Milwaukee. And this was when Milwaukee was down and out. But you got a credential and you're reporting on things and then you're selling your
Once
content.
you're in once, you can pretty much go anywhere.
Yeah, that was it.
As
And
long as
then,
you put the work in.
made his contacts. So happy for him that he got that opportunity.
That's going to score him. That's not going to score him. They turned a double play. Oh, that is pain.
Oh, my gosh.
That is pain.
Okay, so the Tigers just turned a double play with runners on the corners and one out. We go to the seventh, still scoreless. As Tim has to go lie down, that means we will take your calls next segment, 866-4FAN. It's last call, 866-4326 here on the Fan Rochester.
You're listening. 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
How you holding up, Tim?
I've got a stomach ache. The best part of everything that just happened is like that double play ended the inning and we went right to break. The Tigers' inning's already over. So
isn't that like?
So I'm all in for that.
Are they not working counts or whatever?
This is a rapidly moving game.
Yeah.
That this is the baseball that I love. I love me a 2-1 pitcher's duel where there's 5 hits total.
I love any. I know this is a cop-out, but as long as it's well played, I can't be upset at the Mets yesterday. Because that was just a well-played game. You had guys stepping up and delivering. That's like, all right, I despise the Phillies, but I recognize their talent. And all of them stepped up yesterday.
It's been an unreal week, starting with that doubleheader last Monday. Baseball has been really, really fun to watch forever. But for 8 straight days, we've had at least one really good matchup on the slate. And it's been very entertaining, other than the day off between the wild card round.
Yeah, Dodgers-Padres. Boy, all along I've been thinking, this is not good for the Dodgers. Lose the way they did last night. That one's going to be tomorrow night. Mets going back home, which that's going to be interesting. We'll see what it's crazy to think that the last time the Mets played a home game, the Bills had yet to kick off against Jacksonville. That's how long ago it's been. That is just one nutty schedule.
That was what?
That was Monday night 3 weeks ago.
13 days ago?
Yeah. No, 14 days ago. Yeah.
Well, welcome home.
Yeah. So, all right. So we've got the Guardians and the Tigers going to the top of the 7th now.
Yeah, this is. The inning did not end. It was just one out. They switched pitchers. I got tricked by the way that he walked off the field, but he did his job.
You're focused. You're looking at the time. You're trying to time things out.
Yeah, which is about 30 seconds away. So.
All right. So while we got 30 seconds away, tomorrow on the show we will be talking to the new head coach of the Rochester Americans, Michael Leone, stopping by in the studio. Michael F. Florio, NFL Network, optimizing your fantasy lineups. And then also, we'll be talking to Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard, and the Shout podcast tomorrow. All that coming your way. Tim, let's do this again, buddy.
I love doing this with you. I would like to do it more often, and I appreciate you having me in, and that is... All right. It's time for me to get out of here.
Yeah, all right. Baseball playoffs. Got to love it. No score, Cleveland, Detroit. Have a good night, everyone.
You're listening to the Danger in Battaglia.